Chapter 269. This way, no matter where you are, you don't have to worry about not having the cherry pill to eat. Yi-Joga said happily. Thank you. Juni-chan was sincerely grateful. This cherry pill was very useful to goo refiners like them. With it, not only would the vital goo's advancement be easier, the blood cloak Meow tribe's glory would also be restored soon. There's no need for thanks between friends. Yi-Joga patted Juni-chan's shoulder and asked, when do you plan to leave? Tomorrow. You don't need to send me off. Juni-chan had always been straightforward. He left immediately. Yi-Joga woke up the next day and found his room empty. She was worried that Luo Tian would be sad, but she did not expect him to be fine, and even comforted Yi-Joga. We will meet again if we are fated. You are right. Yi-Joga calmed her emotions and continued her closed-door cultivation, waiting for Zishang to return. Myriad Beast method was divided into 4 stages: skin, bone, flesh, and soul. When the method was mastered, one could transform into a demon. Spirit beasts and demonic beasts were nurtured by nature. They were the most suitable to cultivate this method. Humans had too many distracting thoughts. Their souls were complicated, and their bodies were weak. They could not cultivate this method. But after Yi-Joga and Zishang dual cultivated, she obtained the nourishment of his inner core, and could cultivate Myriad Beast method with half the effort. In just a few days she found the benefits. Her beast language was only elementary before, and she could only understand spirit beasts. But her spirit power was strong, and the clearer her thoughts, the easier it was to communicate. Normal animals did not have spirit power, so they could not communicate. But now, she was unobstructed, and could even vaguely feel the thoughts of plants. She believed that as long as she continued cultivating, she would be able to communicate with plants one day. Other than the improvement in beast language, Yi-Joga's appearance also changed. A phoenix feather flower vaguely appeared between her eyebrows, and her shoulder blades often itched. She used the crystal mirror to look, and found that the skin of her shoulder blades had the shape of a red feather. Yi-Joga was worried that she would cultivate into a demonic snake, but now it seemed that she was evolving towards a birdman. It was not bad to be able to fly. With this thought she cultivated peacefully. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. There were only 3 days left before Zishang returns. Yi-Joga's cultivation of the 10,000 Beasts secret art was very smooth, and the poison in his dantian was also well controlled. She was just about to work harder to refine the phoenix feather flower between her brows, when Gong Honglei suddenly sent her a message, asking her to come out of seclusion immediately, saying that something big had happened to her family. Yi-Joga was shocked. Could it be that the people from the Yin Corpse sect went to find trouble with Mother Qing and the others? As soon as she came out, she saw Gong Honglei anxiously waiting at the door. What happened to my family? Yi-Joga quickly asked. I heard that Patriarch Lingyun has taken a liking to your 4th sister, and wants to take her as a disciple. Yi Yuxuan has already agreed. Gong Honglei had seen Yi Rui in Alchemy City, and knew that she was a proud girl. There was no way she would agree to become Ancestor Lingyun's disciple. What? Yi-Joga was shocked. That old pervert Ancestor Spirit Cloud wouldn't even let a little girl off. There was also Yi Yuxuan. Was he crazy? He actually pushed Yi Rui into a pit of fire. In the past, when she saw him treating Yi Rui like a treasure, she thought that he would really treat her well. She didn't expect that he would treat her like a tool to sell for money. If she had known earlier, she would have brought Yi Rui along. Help me prepare a horse. I'm going back to Shangjing now. Yi-Joga was no longer in the mood to cultivate. She could only hurry back to stop Yi Yuxuan from going crazy. This is already 3 days ago. You won't make it if you go back now. Why don't you wait for Dan Yang's sect to pick up Yu Lingjun and ask her? Gong Honglei calmly said. When will they arrive? Yi-Joga asked. They should be here tonight. Gong Honglei replied. Alright, I'll wait for them. Yi-Joga clenched her fists. She planned to ask them when they arrived. At dusk, the people from Dan Yang's sect finally arrived, travel-worn. The leader was a man in his 30s. He wore cyan clothes and had a square face. He looked rather steady. His name was Su Jiwei, the head disciple of Ancestor Lingyun. Gong Shifan brought Gong Honglei and Yi-Joga to receive Su Jiwei's group. Master Gong, Master asked me to thank you on his behalf. Thank you for saving my junior sister. Su Jiwei calmly bowed to Gong Shifan. Nephew Su is too polite. However, if you want to thank someone, you should thank Miss Yi. She was the one who saved Miss Yu from Ancestor Bloodthirsty's blood pool. Gong Shifan explained what had happened. He especially told them about how Yu Lingjun disobeyed orders and acted recklessly. Su Jiwei was very clear about Yu Lingjuan's character. He smiled bitterly and cupped his fists to Yi Jioga. Thank you for saving my life, Miss Yi. Junior sister should know her mistake now. It's a pity that junior brother Qiao was implicated by her. Yi Jioga saw that Su Jiwei seemed reasonable, so he directly asked, I just received news that Ancestor Lingyun has taken a fancy to my fourth sister, Yi Rui, and wants to take her as a disciple. Is that true? Su Jiwei's expression became a bit strange. He nodded and said, It is true. My sister still wants to. I'm afraid there's more to it. Please tell me in detail, senior brother Su. Yi Jioga's eyes lit up. Well, Master heard that Miss Yi has an outstanding aptitude, so he wants to take her as a disciple. There's nothing to hide, Su Jiwei replied. However, his expression just now had already betrayed him. This matter was definitely not that simple. However, Yi Jioga could also understand that Su Jiwei didn't dare speak ill of Ancestor Lingyun in front of everyone. If he wanted to get information out of him, he would have to find another time. It was a pity that Zishang wasn't here. Otherwise, there wouldn't be these problems. Yi Jioga's thoughts fluctuated, but he still calmly thanked Su Jiwei. It's getting late. Nephew Su, why don't you stay here for the night and leave tomorrow morning? Gong Shifan invited. Then I'll have to trouble you. Su Jiwei cupped his fists and said, I want to see junior sister first. That's what I should do. Gong Shifan nodded and then ordered Gong Honglei, who was standing next to him. Take nephew Su to see Miss Yu. Big brother Su, please. Gong Honglei and Su Jiwei were old acquaintances. The two of them always got along well. As Su Jiwei walked, he pretended to chat casually. Gong Honglei said whatever was on his mind. Anyway, it was Yu Lingjuan's fault, so he wasn't afraid to say it. Su Jiwei knew that Gong Honglei was a straightforward person. If he also said that it was junior sister's fault, it seemed that the matter wasn't far from the truth. The courtyard that Miss Yu lives in is in front. Gong Honglei pointed to the exquisite small courtyard in front. Su Jiwei saw that the small courtyard was decorated well, and knew that the Gong family didn't mistreat junior sister. However, as soon as he walked into the courtyard, he heard the sound of a cup smashing. Do you think I'm dead? How dare you give me such rotten tea to drink? I want to drink Long Jing before the rain. Hurry and get it for me. Yu Lingjuan's sharp voice came out. Chapter 270. Su Jiwei's expression changed when he heard Yu Lingjuan's scolding. The Gong family was not their Danyang sect. It was foolish for Yu Lingjun to throw a tantrum here. He quickly walked in and saw the floor covered in broken pieces. Yu Lingjun was screaming like a crazy woman on the bed. The servants who served her were all kneeling on the ground, trembling. Junior sister, what are you doing? Su Jiwei shouted in dissatisfaction. Yu Lingjun heard this voice and immediately raised her head. Seeing it was Su Jiwei, she immediately broke down and cried. Senior brother, sob sob sob, you're finally here. Su Jiwei saw her crying so miserably and couldn't bear to scold her. He slowly walked forward and said, Master received Master Gong's letter and immediately sent me to pick you up. How are your injuries? The Gong family is not good. They didn't give me the black flower bone healing ointment. They want me to become a cripple. Yu Lingjun looked at Gong Honglei with hatred. Yes, it's all our Gong family's fault. We can't get the black flower bone healing ointment for Miss Yu. Gong Honglei said coldly. Honglei, don't be angry. My junior sister was just agitated. Su Jiwei suddenly felt awkward. Even his master had to spend a lot of effort to get the black flower bone healing ointment. Yu Lingjun was not related to the Gong family. What right did she have to ask others to give her such a precious thing? Senior brother, you're still speaking up for him. Don't you know that he helped Yi Jioga bully me? If Yi Jioga hadn't whipped me, I wouldn't have run out and senior brother Qiao wouldn't have died. It's all Yi Jioga's fault. Senior brother, quickly kill her to avenge senior brother Qiao. Yu Lingjun shouted hysterically. Junior sister, what nonsense are you talking about? Su Jiwei frowned and looked at Yu Lingjun. He had already understood that the whipping was ordered by Gong Shifan, and every martial artist was punished. No one else ran except for her. Now that something happened to Yi Jioga, it was unreasonable no matter what. Senior brother Su, please try to persuade your junior sister. I'll be leaving first. Gong Honglei threw down these words and left. Eldest senior brother, you must kill them all to avenge me. Yu Lingjuan's hair was disheveled and her expression was ferocious. Her voice was hoarse from shouting. Junior sister, you're tired. Take a break first. Su Jiwei sighed and tapped Yu Lingjuan's sleeping acupoint. After she fell asleep, he began to check her wound. Her calves were tightly wrapped in white cloth, but the soles of her feet and calves were sunken. Su Jiwei reached out and touched it. It was all bones. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Even his master couldn't cure this kind of injury. Junior sister's leg was really crippled. Junior sister's personality was so arrogant. How could she take such a blow? He really didn't know what would happen in the future. Unfortunately, her master was currently infatuated with her beauty, so she was afraid that he wouldn't have the time to care about her. Su Jiwei was a little annoyed when he thought of this, so he got up and left the house. When he went out, he saw Gong Honglei waiting in the yard with a pot of wine in his hand. He smiled at him and said, Big brother Su, why don't you drink with me? When Su Jiwei saw Gong Honglei's posture, he knew that he was here for Yi Rui's news. Just now, it wasn't good to talk about the inside story in front of everyone. If they were to drink, he could reveal a thing or two. It could be considered as repaying them for taking care of junior sister. When the lanterns were lit, the Gong family had already lit the lanterns, illuminating the inside and outside like it was daytime. Yi Jioga anxiously paced back and forth in the house. From time to time, he would poke his head out to take a few glances, hoping that Gong Honglei would come back soon. Big miss, don't worry. Little Red is guarding over there. If there's any news, it will come back to report. Just as Luo Tian's voice fell, a spider shadow flew in through the window. How is it? Is Gong Honglei ready to come back? Yi Jioga asked Little Red. He has already walked out of the yard. Little Red replied with a squeaky voice. Then you guys go out first. Oh right. Tell Yi Yu to pack his things, and be ready to leave at any time. Yi Jioga planned to leave as soon as he got the news. Luo Tian nodded and brought Little Red out. Not long later, Gong Honglei, who reeked of alcohol, entered the house. However, his expression was still sober. What did Su Jiwei say? Yi Jioga handed over a cup of hot tea. He said that your second sister is really not a good person. Gong Honglei took a sip of tea and told Luo Tian what he had gotten from Su Jiwei. It turned out that Yi Shanshan was very favored by the Lingyun ancestor and had already advanced to an advanced spiritualist with the help of medicinal pills. In order to please the Lingyun ancestor, she wanted Yi Rui to enter the Lingyun ancestor's sect and become a sister and a husband. The Lingyun ancestor was overjoyed when he heard this, and immediately sent her to negotiate with Yi Yuxuan. Originally, Yi Yuxuan was unwilling. However, his cultivation stagnated, and he couldn't advance. So Yi Shanshan proposed to exchange treasures for Yi Rui. The Lingyun ancestor was also very generous. He was actually willing to exchange the cosmic treasure herb pill. Yi Yuxuan agreed as soon as he heard this. The cosmic treasure herb pill was the Lingyun ancestor's treasure. It was the best pill to advance to an intermediate spiritualist. Many people in the Danyang sect coveted it. The reason why Su Jiwei pretended to be drunk and said this was because he was dissatisfied. He was the chief disciple of the Lingyun ancestor and his successor. He originally thought that the cosmic treasure herb pill would be left for him. He didn't expect the Lingyun ancestor to exchange it for a little girl. It was no wonder that he was depressed. Yi Yuxuan. Yi Jioga gritted his teeth. Yi Shanshan might be trash, but if Yi Yuxuan didn't agree, she wouldn't take Yi Rui away. At the end of the day, Yi Yuxuan was the worst. Back then, she should have ended his life with a single slash. Don't worry too much. Mo Yin and Ali happened to pass by the Danyang sect on their way back. I've already sent them a message to stop the people from the Danyang sect. However, you still have to talk to the Yi clan yourself. After all, Yi Yuxuan accepted the benefits from the Lingyun ancestor. If you don't return the benefits, it's useless even if you stop them, Gong Honglei said. Yi Rui was young, so it wasn't up to her to be sold. I'll go back now. I must make Yi Yuxuan spit out the cosmic treasure herb pill, Yi Jioga said. All right, I'll prepare a horse for you now. You don't have to be too anxious. Mo Yin and the others are fast, so they should be able to stop them. Even if they can't, the Gong clan will go to the Danyang sect for you. I'm sure the Lingyun ancestor won't make things difficult for us, Gong Honglei said. After all, the Gong clan still owed Yi Jioga a blood lotus. Thank you. Yi Jioga thanked him solemnly. The Gong clan had already exchanged the master establishing pill for her. As for the blood lotus, she hadn't thought of what to exchange it for, so she still owed it. If Yi Rui was really sent to the Danyang sect, she would really have to ask the Gong clan for help. It's nothing. There's no need to thank me. It's nothing compared to the kindness you've done for the Gong clan. Gong Honglei waved his hand and went out to prepare the carriage. Chapter 271. Yi Jioga rode on the red-haired spirit horse that Gong Honglei had prepared and rushed back to Shangjing. She used 2.5 days to reach what was supposed to be a 3-day journey. When she returned, it was just in the afternoon. After she entered the city, she didn't even return to her own residence, and went straight to the Yi residence. She didn't expect to find the atmosphere extremely strange when she entered the Yi residence. The servants were all panic-stricken, like birds startled by the mere twang of a bowstring. The old butler was also at a loss. When he saw Yi Jioga, he asked with a confused expression, "Who are you?" After he asked, he immediately came back to his senses and hurriedly apologized in fear and trepidation. This old servant deserves to die. I was really confused just now. Eldest miss, please forgive me. This old servant. All right, what happened in the residence? Where's Yi Yuxuan? Yi Jioga impatiently interrupted the old butler's apology. Master isn't at home. Madam just fell by the lake and miscarried, the old butler said with a trembling voice. Su Yufeng miscarried? Yi Jioga was shocked. She came looking for trouble, and didn't expect to hear this news. Yes, eldest miss, master hasn't returned yet. We don't know what to do. Eldest miss, please help. The old butler was desperate. Have you invited a spirit doctor? Yi Jioga quickly walked towards Su Yufeng's ink garden. The spirit doctor has already seen and said that the child can't be saved. Madam's condition is also very critical. They want us to quickly invite master back, the butler hurriedly said. When Yi Jioga entered the ink garden, she smelled the pungent smell of blood. He saw Su Yufeng lying on the bed. Her face was pale, her lips purple, her breathing weak, and the blanket under her was covered with blood. A formed male fetus wrapped in white cloth was placed next to her. Su Yufeng's personal servant, Ji Hua, sat paralyzed on the ground. When she saw Yi Jioga come in, she didn't react at all. Yi Jioga went forward and lifted the white cloth to look at the male fetus. The fetus's facial features were very clear. The fetus's hair was thick, and he looked somewhat similar to Yi Yuxuan. He would probably grow up to be a handsome man. Unfortunately, his skin was purple and he wasn't breathing. There was nothing he could do. Yi Jioga couldn't help but sigh. Although she hated Su Yufeng, the child was innocent after all. It was really pitiful for her to die at birth. Yi Jioga covered the male fetus with a white cloth, then took out the thunderfire needles, and inserted them into Su Yufeng's Baihui, Taiyang, and Renzhong acupoints. Su Yufeng's body trembled. Before she opened her eyes, she murmured, "Child, my child." The child was not saved, Yi Jioga said. What did you say? Su Yufeng tried her best to open her eyes. She never expected that the person she saw would be Yi Jioga. Let the lady see the child. Yi Jioga turned his head and said to Ji Hua. Yes. Ji Hua finally came back to her senses and handed the dead male fetus to Su Yufeng. Su Yufeng wanted to touch her child, but she didn't even have the strength to lift her hand. She just kept crying. If you knew this would happen, you wouldn't have done it in the first place. Although Yi Jioga sympathized with the child, he didn't feel the slightest bit of pity for Su Yufeng. Yi Jioga, I'm sorry for what happened in the past, But the child is innocent. Su Yufeng's face was pale, her eyes bloodshot, and her chest violently heaved. What do you want to say? Yi Zhuge calmly looked at Su Yufeng. No matter what hatred there was in the past, in the face of a dying person, it all disappeared. The person who pushed me is that bitch Mu Xianglan. Su Yufeng gasped for breath. Every word was spat out with all her strength. Seventh concubine, Mu Xianglan pushed you? Yi Zhuge could not help but raise his eyebrows. This news was somewhat unexpected to her. It's her, please avenge my child. Su Yufeng's last breath could not be lifted. She died with her eyes wide open. Madam. Jihua rushed forward and burst into tears. Go to Fragrant Orchid Courtyard. Yi Zhuge immediately stood up. This seventh concubine had been trying to please Yi Rui. She was not a good person. She just happened to be a good person. Yi Zhuge rushed to Fragrant Orchid Courtyard with the old housekeeper and mother gone from the torture room. When he opened the courtyard door, he smelled a strong smell of blood, only to see the dead bodies on the ground. Their faces were full of horror. Heavens! The old housekeeper's legs went soft. He almost could not walk. Mother Gone also had goosebumps. She had served in the Yi mansion for so many years. She had never seen such a terrifying scene. Yi Zhuge's expression did not change. He stepped over the dead bodies in the courtyard and kicked open the door. The doors and windows were closed. The light was somewhat dim. He could vaguely see a red-clothed seventh concubine sitting on a chair. Her beautiful eyes slightly drooped. Her gorgeous face had a faint smile. It was as if she was welcoming a distinguished guest. Mu Xianglan, you crazy fellow. Not only did you kill Madam, you even killed the servants who served you. The old housekeeper stood behind Yi Zhuge. He pointed at seventh concubine and scolded her. Seventh concubine did not move. She maintained a charming smile. It was just that this smile was extremely strange in this kind of atmosphere. Yi Zhuge felt that something was wrong. He went forward to check seventh concubine's breath. He found that she was no longer breathing. Could it be that seventh concubine committed suicide? The old housekeeper said with a trembling voice. Impossible. Yi Zhuge shook his head. Seventh concubine was a shrewd woman. It was impossible for her to use such a clumsy method to harm Su Yufeng. It was even more impossible for her to commit suicide. Young miss, there's a letter on the table. Mother Gone's sharp eyes saw a letter on the mahogany dressing table. Yi Zhuge picked it up. She was immediately shocked. In the letter, seventh concubine said that Su Yufeng had done many evil deeds. She deserved to die. Killing her was to uphold justice for the heavens. She also said that Yi Yuxuan was cruel and unscrupulous. He would not have a good ending. But what surprised Yi Zhuge the most was that seventh concubine was a spy sent by the Ying Corps sect. She stayed in Shangjing to find the treasure map and the Wei Cloud Sea. The entire letter was very messy. Rather than saying that she surrendered, it would be better to say that she was coerced. Yi Zhuge had guessed that her grandfather's disappearance was related to the treasure map. Now this letter proved her guess. What was on the treasure map? Why did the Ying Corps sect want it? Her thoughts were in a mess. She could not find an answer. She could not help but crumple the letter. Young miss, what does the letter say? The old housekeeper could not help but ask. Nothing. Yi Zhuge calmed herself down and put the letter away. She began to carefully examine seventh concubine's cause of death. She found that her death was very strange. There were no external or internal injuries. She was not poisoned. She was simply brain dead. She had only seen this kind of situation with Qiao Xiaohua. At that time, Si Yue had used a secret technique to destroy Qiao Xiaohua's divine sense. This method was very clever. Even Yi Zhuge could not see through it. Could it be that the Ying Corps sect sent an expert to control seventh concubine? But spending this much effort to kill Su Yufeng and the servants in the courtyard, this was too strange. Chapter 272. Yi Zhuge couldn't figure out the cause of her death. But today, she came to settle the score with Yi Yuxuan, not to solve the case. She told the old housekeeper to seal up the Ink Garden and Fragrant Orchid Courtyard, then went to the hall to wait for Yi Yuxuan's return. At dusk, Yi Yuxuan finally rushed back. When he heard that Su Yufeng had died along with 2 children, and that everyone in 7th Mistress's courtyard had died, He didn't rush to check. Instead, he pointed at Yi Jioga and scolded. You jinx, as soon as you came back, you made my house restless. What are your intentions? Yi Jioga knew that Yi Yuxuan would put the blame on her. She couldn't be bothered to talk about it, so she directly said, I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Hand over the universe treasure herb pill. That's my pill. Why do you want me to hand it over? Yi Yuxuan said fiercely. It wasn't easy for him to exchange for this pill. How could he hand it over? That's the pill you got by selling your daughter. If you don't hand it over, I guarantee that your bad name will spread across the entire Kangling continent. At that time, let's see if you still have the face to go out. Yi Jioga knew that Yi Yuxuan cared about his face, and was most afraid of people talking about his shortcomings. You dare? Yi Yuxuan roared. I dare to go to Blood Cloud Peak to kill bloodthirsty ancestor. What else do I not dare to do? Yi Jioga's expression was cold, and her eyes were fierce. Yi Yuxuan's heart jumped. He had to admit that this daughter was getting more and more terrifying. He swallowed his saliva, then said with difficulty, But I already ate the pill. You ate it. Yi Jioga frowned, opened her spirit eye to check Yi Yuxuan's body, and found that the spirit-dispersing pill had already dispersed. If Yi Yuxuan was obedient, he wouldn't be in danger before Yi Rui came of age. But he purposely used Yi Rui to exchange for the universe treasure herb pill, causing his death to come early. Right now, his chi was declining, and he was on the verge of death. Jioga, I have no other choice. I don't know what happened, but my cultivation suddenly stagnated. I originally thought that eating the universe treasure herb pill would help me break through the bottleneck, but it didn't help at all. Jioga, you must have gained a lot from this trip to Blood Cloud Peak. You have to help me. Yi Yuxuan begged bitterly. Take care. Yi Jioga couldn't save Yi Yuxuan. Since she couldn't get the heaven and earth treasured herb pill back, she could only ask the Gong family to help her ask ancestor Lingyun for her. Yi Jioga turned around to leave, but Yi Yuxuan roared. Yi Jioga, don't forget that I'm your father. If you don't help me, then you're unfilial. If word of this gets out, everyone in the world will laugh at you. Yi Yuxuan, I've already severed our relationship as father and daughter. From today onwards, my surname is Yun, not Yi. Yin Jioga said word by word. My daughter Yu, Yin said. Yi Yuxuan said furiously. Don't forget that the plaque on your mansion is named Yi. That was given by Emperor Xianwu himself. Do you want to go against the Dongfang family? Yi Emperor Yi I family, House family, Yi and. That's right. That's why I advise you to obediently keep the signboard of the Yi mansion. That way, it'll be easier to meet in the future. Ever since Yi Yuxuan found out that Yi Jioga was coming back to establish his own sect, he secretly gave Emperor Xianwu a third-grade thunder spirit pill, and begged him to give Yi Jioga the Yi residence's plaque. He was certain that Yi Jioga was on good terms with noble consort Shi and Dongfang Ke, so he was too embarrassed to disobey Emperor Xianwu. What a good plan. It's a pity that you're going to die. We won't meet again. After Yun Jioga finished speaking, he turned around and left, leaving Yi Yuxuan's roar behind. When Yun Jioga returned to his mansion, he waved his hand and took down the Yi mansion's signboard. Mother Qing and Elder He received the news and came out. When they saw the situation, they were very surprised. Miss, what are you doing? Give this signboard to Yi Yuxuan. Yun Jioga threw the signboard and said, From today onwards, we will change our name to Yun Manor. Really? Mother Qing was pleasantly surprised. She was originally a member of the Yun family, so she naturally hoped that eldest Miss could change her surname back to Yun. But this horizontal board was given by the emperor. Pearl said in a low voice. She was just an ordinary person, and the emperor was as unshakable as the sky to her. It's not up to Emperor Xianwu to decide on my matters. Yun Jioga really didn't put Emperor Xianwu in her eyes. Eldest Miss is really bold, Elder He praised, and then he carried out a black golden Namu signboard from the house. On it there were two big words, Yun Manor, written in an iron pen and silver hook. It was the handwriting of Grandpa Yunwei. Yi Yuxuan hated me because of this signboard. He caused me to lose all my power, and almost died in the countryside. Elder He said with emotion. He risked his life to protect the old master's Yun Manor signboard. And it finally saw the light of day again. Then please help me put this signboard up, Elder Hua. Yin Juga said. Okay. Elder Hua flew up with the signboard and carefully hung it up. The two big words Yun Manor shone with a dazzling light under the sun, and finally saw the glory of the past. That night, the Yun Manor was decorated with lanterns and streamers, and it was full of joy. On one hand, it was to celebrate Yun Jyoga's triumphant return. On the other hand, it was to celebrate them completely getting rid of the shadow of the Yi family, and to restore the glory of the Yun family. The news of Yun Jyoga changing his surname, and the signboard spread throughout Shangjing. The nobles in Shangjing all sent gifts to congratulate him. Even Emperor Xian Wu sent a generous gift, but he didn't mention that the signboard he sent had been replaced. Yun Jyoga was in high spirits, but Yi Yuxuan was gloomy. He set up a mourning hall for Su Yufeng, but no one went to pay their respects. Ever since Su Junqing killed Old Master Su, the Su family had been completely defeated. A group of people rushed to sell their properties, and after that, they went their separate ways. They didn't dare stay in Shangjing, afraid that those who were killed by the bloodthirsty sect would come to seek revenge. Yi Yuxuan sent someone to the Danyang sect to deliver a letter to Yi Shanshan, but he didn't expect to receive another bad news. Yi Shanshan brought Yi Rui back to the Danyang sect, but they were attacked by unknown people. They were completely annihilated, and Yi Rui was nowhere to be found. Ancestor Lingyun was furious and sent people to chase after the Heaven and Earth Treasure Herb pill. After learning that Yi Yuxuan had already taken it, he beat him up. Yi Yuxuan's vitality was already declining, and after being beaten up, he was bedridden. His life was already in danger. He sent someone to invite Yun Jyoga, but Yun Jyoga didn't want to see him at all. She was worried about Yi Rui. Bailey Moyen wrote to say that when he and Nangongli rushed to intercept the Danyang sect, they discovered that they had been killed by a sneak attack, and that the attacker was most likely someone from the demon sect. However, they hadn't found any clues as to which demon sect it was. Yun Jyoga didn't expect that after destroying the bloodthirsty sect, a demon sect would appear. What sin did he commit to have to deal with these demons and ghosts? Chapter 273. Yi Rui was captured by the demon sect. Yun Jyoga had no way to find her, so he could only ask Bailey Moyen to continue investigating. Bailey Moyen expressed that he would do his best to help. Eldest Miss, do you want me to investigate as well? Ever since Yi Yunji was brought to the Yin Corpse sect by Su Junqing, Yi Yu had been paying close attention to the demon sect. No need. Let's wait for Yi Zi to come back. Yi Jyoga shook his head. She had a feeling that Zi Shang would definitely know something. Moreover, Seventh Aunt's death was strange. She believed that Zi Shang would definitely have a way to find clues. That night it was the 15th day. Zi Shang returned as promised. Little Jyoga, did you miss me? The first thing Zi Shang did when he returned was to hug Yi Jyoga and kiss him. Yes. Yun Jyoga said perfunctorily, and told him about Yi Rui and Seventh Aunt. It seems that this Seventh Aunt is indeed strange. This sovereign will help you investigate. Zishang said with interest. Yun Jyoga brought Zishang to Seventh Aunt's courtyard for a walk. He originally wanted to bring him to see Seventh Aunt's corpse, but Zishang refused. No need, I already know what happened. What happened? Yi Jyoga asked. It was the demon sect's Black Fiend sect. Zishang said with certainty. Isn't the Black Fiend sect in the Demon Mountain thousands of miles away? Why would they come here? Yi Jyoga was confused. Even if the Black Fiend sect and Yin Corpse sect had enmity, they wouldn't come all the way here to kill Seventh Aunt, right? I noticed that there was a soul of the Black Fiend sect following your fourth sister. It seems that she became a disciple of that almighty being, and successfully became a demon. Zishang saw that Yi Rui was bent on revenge, and knew that the Black Fiend sect almighty being would definitely help her. As expected, now that Su Yufeng, Yi Shanshan, Seventh Aunt and Yi Yuxuan were all dead, it saved him a lot of effort. You mean that there was a demon beside fourth sister, who helped her control Seventh Aunt to kill Su Yufeng? Yi Jyoga suddenly understood. No wonder Seventh Aunt would die so strangely. So it was because the demon controlled her sea of consciousness. That's right. Yi Yuxuan and Yi Shanshan were also killed by the demon. Zishang said with certainty. No. Fourth sister has such a dangerous demon by her side. Why didn't you tell me in advance? Yi Jioga was very angry. That supreme expert wants to take your sister as his disciple. Her sister won't be any worse off if she follows him. You should worry about yourself first. The Almighty of the Black Fiend sect had some relationship with Zishang, so he turned a blind eye and didn't tell Yi Jioga. In that case, fourth sister's life won't be in danger? It wasn't that Yin Jioga looked down on the demon sect, but it was fine as long as Yi Rui was fine. Of course, the Black Fiend sect's cultivation method is the best at preserving one's life. If she succeeds in becoming a demon, she will definitely live longer than you, Zishang said with certainty. When Yin Jioga heard this, he really didn't know whether to be happy or sad. She let out a long sigh before she asked Zishang, "Then have you found a way to heal my Dantian?" "I found it. The only way to get rid of the poison is to go to the Yin Corpse sect and learn their Yin Ghost Corpse control technique," Zishang said seriously. "You want me to train in the Corpse sect? Are you joking?" Yin Jioga felt that Zishang must have gone mad. "I'm not joking." Zishang looked at Yin Jioga with a serious expression and said, "Don't you think it's strange that those strange things always happen around you? You clearly haven't offended the bloodthirsty sect, but trouble always comes to you? Because I'm beautiful?" Yin Jioga always felt that her appearance wasn't a white lotus, but a blood lotus level. Being too beautiful was also a mistake. Seeing Yin Jioga's narcissistic look, Zishang was silent for a moment before he reorganized his emotions and continued to brainwash her. "Because you have this calamity in your life, that's why those troublesome things revolve around you." Originally, Zishang wanted to reveal some things about the daughter of the divine blood, but seeing Yin Jioga like this, he felt that it was better to continue hiding it. "When did you change your profession to fortune-telling? Calamity in her life? Bah! Why didn't he say that she was the bane of all existence? Although there will be many hardships for you, there will be even more opportunities." Zishang ignored Yin Jioga's supercilious look and continued to speak. "Hehe, if the eruption of the Dantian and not being able to cultivate is an opportunity, then I'll give it to you." Yin Jioga didn't see any opportunities. She only saw herself being unlucky, Yi being unlucky, Yi Yunji being unlucky, and Yi Rui being unlucky. These troubles are all experiences. As long as you defeat them, you will obtain great benefits. For example, the 9-layer bone-shattering poison in your Dantian. If you completely absorb it, you will be able to complete the body-tempering technique. This is an opportunity that others can only dream of. When Zishang saw that Yin Jioga's eyes were rolling wider and wider, he added confidently, "It's your luck that you met me. I don't want this poison opportunity. I'll give it to whoever wants it. As for you," Yin Jioga looked at Zishang and said reluctantly, "You can stay and help me carry my shoes." "Do you want to die?" Zishang narrowed his eyes with a fierce look. This stupid girl dared to look down on him. She really needed to be taught a lesson. "Whatever you say is useless. Anyway, I'm not going to the Yin Corpse sect to cultivate. Even if she went to the Yin Corpse sect, it would be to seek revenge. What was the point of becoming a disciple to cultivate? Was she going to help the Yin Corpse sect harm people in the future? You have to go. First, Yi Yunji is there. If you want the treasure map, you have to go find her. Second, the people who harmed your grandfather are from the Yin Corpse sect. If you want to investigate the truth, you have to go there. Third, your sister Yi Rui has already joined the Black Fiend sect. If you go to the Yin Corpse sect, you can take care of her. Fourth, you are surrounded by bad luck. Wherever you go, you will implicate others. Since that is the case, why not go to the evil sects to cause trouble? Zishang listed them one by one. Yin Jioga was actually speechless. But even so, she was determined not to go. Seeing that Yin Jioga was invulnerable, Zishang didn't say anything. The atmosphere became awkward. It was as if a dark cloud had appeared in the sky. Yin Jioga felt a bit uneasy. Zishang had been so busy for her. It was a bit too much for her to reject him so rudely. You must be tired after going out for so long. Is there anything you want to eat? I'll make it for you. Yin Joga walked to Zishang's side and pulled on his sleeve, revealing a slightly flattering smile. Zishang didn't look at her and didn't say anything. It seemed that he was really angry. Yin Joga thought about it, then scratched her face and said, I seem to have encountered some bottlenecks in my cultivation. Do you want to help me check? Zishang finally gave Yin Joga a look. How do you want to check? Yin Joga saw that Zishang finally had a reaction. She let out a breath in her heart and said in a small voice, You can check however you want. The hint was very strong. Chapter 274. Zishang narrowed his eyes and glanced at Yin Joga. He didn't move. F***ck. Yin Joga thought Zishang would immediately pounce on her. She hadn't expected him to be so patient. Had her charm deteriorated, or had someone else squeezed him dry? Yin Joga's mood immediately turned sour when she thought of this. She was a domineering woman. It was fine when she wasn't with Zishang in the past. But now that he was hers, she would kill anyone who dared to touch him. Dual cultivation, do you want to do it? Yin Joga took off her outer robe and tossed it over Zishang's head. Her expression wasn't an invitation, but an order. If he dared to refuse, she would definitely chop him into pieces. Zishang was actually just teasing Yin Joga. Seeing that she was already showing signs of anger, he immediately stopped while he was ahead. Let's do it. Zishang slowly took off his light purple robe, revealing a perfect muscular body. His chest muscles were firm and powerful, his abs were well defined, and his thighs were taut. Just looking at them would make one drool. The two didn't waste any words and quickly started practicing. Zishang wanted to see Yin Joga's cultivation results, so he entered from behind. After moving for 49 times, he saw fine hair appear behind her shoulder blades. Although it wasn't very full, it was a huge improvement. Looks like you've been practicing well recently. Zishang brushed the faint red light on her back in satisfaction. Of course. Yin Joga was very serious about her cultivation. Zishang flipped her over and circulated his energy face to face. He saw a clear phoenix feather flower appear between Yin Joga's exquisite brows. It was an extremely enchanting red, beautiful beyond compare. How is it? When can I evolve into a birdman? Yin Joga hugged Zishang's waist tightly, panting as she spoke. She hadn't done it in a long time, so she couldn't keep up with Zishang's pace. You want to be a demon? Zishang raised an eyebrow. He grabbed Yin Joga's waist and leaned back, letting her sit on his waist. I'll consider it if I can fly. Yin Joga didn't like this position. It was too tiring. She still preferred to lie down comfortably and practice martial arts. I promise I'll take you flying. Zishang was overjoyed when he saw that Yin Joga didn't hate demons. He really wanted to kiss her. Unfortunately, he didn't dare to. He couldn't allow anything to go wrong in this dual cultivation. If he were to be aroused, the one suffering would be Yin Joga. Yin Joga did not know about Zishang's pain. After he laid down, he began to cultivate comfortably. After Yin Joga's dual cultivation ended, he felt that his dantian was indeed firmer. He had also reconciled with Zishang, and he was very satisfied. In the following days, Zishang no longer mentioned the matter of going to the Een Corpse sect to cultivate, as if he had forgotten about it. Yin Joga felt comfortable, but at the same time, he also felt that something was wrong. He had a feeling that Zishang was holding back some evil move, but on second thought, as long as she insisted on not going, he couldn't do anything to her. It didn't take long for Yin Joga to figure out Zishang's plan. Young miss, you don't look well recently. Are you too tired? Mother Qing brought over a bowl of ginseng soup and looked at Yin Joga worriedly. No. Yin Joga felt that he had been feeling quite good recently. His cultivation had been quite smooth. Miss Four is a good person. You don't have to worry too much. Mother Qing felt that Miss Da should be worried about Miss Four. I know. Yi Rui had the protection of the Black Fiend sect, so her days were definitely better than hers. Mother Qing saw that Yin Joga really didn't care, so she continued to guess. Eldest miss, could it be that you are worried about Master's matter? Although he is seriously ill now, he deserves it. You must not be soft-hearted. I won't be soft-hearted. Yin Joga was very calm. Previously, the old housekeeper of the Yi mansion cried and begged her to save Yi Yuxuan. He even wanted to make a big deal out of it and used the pressure of public opinion to force her. In the end, he was taught a lesson by Zishang, and now he didn't dare to make a sound. That's good. Drink the ginseng tea while it's hot. Mother Qing watched Yin Joga drink the ginseng tea, and then left with peace of mind. Yi Yuxuan won't live for more than 3 days. Zishang silently appeared behind Yin Joga. Yin Joga nodded without any sadness or joy on her face. Her scumbag father was about to leave, but she didn't feel relaxed in her heart. This was fate. Don't be sad. He doesn't deserve you to treat him well. Zishang comforted. I'm not sad. Yi Yuxuan was such a scumbag that even his own father couldn't cry. If you're not sad, then why is your face so ugly? Zishang frowned. Am I? Yin Joga picked up the crystal mirror and looked at herself. She felt that it was okay. It was just that her face was a little pale, her eyes were a little red, and her lips were a little purple. Are you blind? There's clearly a lot of difference. You used to look like this. Zishang touched the surface of Yin Joga's mirror, and her previous face appeared in the crystal mirror. She had bright eyes and white teeth, tender and beautiful like a flower. She was like a lotus that had just emerged from the water. She was naturally beautiful, fresh and natural. After looking at the past, she looked at the present. Only then did Yin Joga realize that her face was pale, her eyes were red, and her lips were purple. She looked like a ghost. Although there was a decadent beauty, it was definitely not the appearance of a decent person. Why did I turn into a ghost? Yin Joga raised her head in fear. Zishang definitely knew the reason. This poison will gradually change your appearance, making you look like an abnormal person. This is the reason why you have to go to Yin Corp's sect. Zishang didn't force Yin Joga during this period of time, because he was waiting for her here. What do you mean by not normal person? Could it be that I look like a ghost? You will know very soon. Zishang sneered. Who asked you to not listen to me before? How soon is very soon? Yin Joga asked again and again, but Zishang ignored her. Yin Joga laid down and slept gloomily. She would know how soon it would be the next morning. The crystal mirror reflected a deathly pale face. A bit of red seeped out from the corner of her eyes. Her pupils were extremely black, and her lips were dark purple. Red, black, and purple. These 4 colors appeared on her face at the same time. No matter how beautiful she was, she couldn't shout anymore. How did I become like this? Yin Joga was completely unable to accept that she had turned from a tender and beautiful white lotus into a devil flower. If you don't go to Yin Corp's sect, there will be more changes in the future. The reason why Zishang wanted Yin Joga to go to Yin Corp's sect was because the Yin Qi there could dissolve the poison in her dantian. During the process of converting the Yin Qi into spirit power, the 9-stage bone shatterer's poison would also temper her muscles and bones, achieving a double training effect. If they know that I am Yin Joga, they won't accept me. Yin Joga was still struggling. I made a fake identity for you in Dabi Mountain to guarantee that you can smoothly enter Yin Corp's sect. Zishang had already prepared it. However, only Yin Corp's bone-controlling technique could be cultivated by Yin Corp's sect's direct disciples. Although it was easy to enter Yin Corp's sect, it was not easy to become an inner court direct disciple. They still had to work hard. Chapter 275. Alright, when do we leave? Yin Joga accepted her fate. As soon as possible. Zishang was afraid that Yin Joga's poison would spread too quickly. Give me 10 days to prepare. She didn't know when she would return, so she had to make ample preparations. Also, Yi Yuxuan was about to die. She had to take back what belonged to the Yun family. Sure. By the way, you'll need a lot of herbs to soak your bones in the later stages of your cultivation. You can collect them now. Zishang gave Yin Joga a list. Yin Joga was a human after all. She wasn't as strong as a beast. She still needed some external herbs to aid her cultivation. Alright, I'll ask the Gong family to help me collect them as payment for the blood lotus. Yin Joga had planned to ask the Gong family to help her find Yi Rui at the Danyang sect. She didn't need it now. She might as well exchange the favor for money, so that the Gong family wouldn't talk about repayment every day. All right. Zishang nodded. Yin Jioga definitely couldn't go out and meet people with this villain's face. If he wanted to restore his original appearance, he would have to take some elixirs that could replenish his essence, chi, and spirit. Fortunately, she had collected a lot of spirit herbs from the bloodthirsty sect. She hurriedly refined a batch of blood spirit pills and consumed them. Only then did she regain her original appearance. 3 days later, Yi Yuxuan was in critical condition. Yin Jioga brought Mother Qing, Elder Hua, and the others to visit him. Yi Yuxuan lay on the bed, his cheeks dry and his eyes sunken. When he saw Yin Jioga, he glared at her with bloodshot eyes and cursed viciously. Jioga, I'm your father. How can you treat me like this? How can you face your mother in the underworld? Yin Jioga stood on the bed and smiled sarcastically. Yi Yuxuan, when you traded fake pills for my mother's life-saving pills, and took away the marrow cleansing and meridian cleansing pills my grandfather left for me, did you ever think about how to face my mother in the underworld? What nonsense are you talking about? Yi Yuxuan didn't expect the things he tried so hard to hide to be exposed. You poisoned my grandfather in order to steal the Yin family's business. Do you really think no one knows what you've done? Yin Jioga's eyes were cold. I didn't. Yi Yuxuan gasped violently and shook his head frantically to deny it. My mother in the underworld must be regretting her lack of judgment back then. How could she have fallen for a heartless man like you? Yin Jioga said word by word. Yi Yuxuan's eyes widened as he stared at Yin Jioga's beautiful face. It was as if he'd seen Yin Jiaojiao return from the underworld to claim his life. Jiaojiao, I'm sorry. It's all my fault for being blinded by greed that harmed you. Please forgive me. Yi Yuxuan's eyes bulged as he reached out to grab Yin Jioga's hand. Yin Jioga took a step back to avoid him and said coldly, Go to hell and atone for your sins with my mother. Yi Yuxuan's qi and blood flowed in the opposite direction. His face was ashen and his hands drooped as he died in fear and regret. Yin Jioga looked at him deeply, then walked out of the room. Mrs. Qing, Elder Hua, and others were waiting outside. They were a little worried when they saw her coming out. Prepare for his funeral. Yin Jioga lowered his eyelids and said emotionlessly. Yi Yuxuan's funeral was very simple. He was buried without even setting up a mourning hall. Although Yin Jioga had changed her surname, no one would object to her going back to take over everything from Yi Yuxuan. The Yin residence's horizontal board replaced the Yi residence and all the properties under its name. From then on, the Yi family no longer existed. After Yin Jioga arranged everything, she released the news that she was heavily injured and was going to Miaojiang's 100,000 mountains to find a life-saving opportunity. Wan Ziang and Bai Songling immediately came to ask if it was true. Dongfang Ke did not come. He had gone to his grandfather's Bai residence and had not returned. Yin Jioga received them and told them half-truthfully about her injuries. Next, she asked them to help take care of the Yin residence. She did not know when she would return. Yin, who only had Elder Hua, an advanced spiritualist, to protect him, so she was still a little worried. Wan Ziang, Bai Songling, and the others naturally agreed. The people outside were easy to deal with, but Yi Yu and Luo Tian were different. I can't tell you where I'm going. The matter of going to the corpse sect was too important, so Yin Jioga did not dare to tell them. When will you return? Yi Yu asked melancholically. I can't say for sure. Yin Jioga shook her head. The corpse sect was not that easy to sneak into. Even if she successfully sneaked in, she did not know how long it would take for her to cultivate their supreme technique to get rid of the 9 broken bones poisonous gas. Yi Yu and Luo Tian were silent. They did not blame the eldest miss for hiding it. They could only blame themselves for not being able to help her. Eldest miss, since you are not in the Thunder Nation, I want to return to the Yi family to continue cultivating. His cultivation was too low. He could not even go to the corpse sect to inquire about his sister, let alone help the eldest Mississippi. He had to become stronger. During this period of time, he tried to combine the Yi family's ancestral concealment technique with the mental cultivation method given by Yin Jioga. He cultivated a path unique to the shadow assassin. However, this mental cultivation method required a dark place of extreme yin. Coincidentally, the Yi family had a dark place that was most suitable for cultivating the concealment technique. Thus, he wanted to go back and concentrate on cultivating. Okay. Yun Jioga nodded, then said to Luo Tian, "What about you? I will wait here for you to come back." Luo Tian had already signed a slave contract with Yun Jioga, so he had to fulfill his duty. "It's a waste of time waiting for me here. Why don't you go to the 100,000 mountains to find Junichen and cover for me?" Yun Jioga said that he had to leave some traces in the 100,000 mountains. Okay. Since the eldest miss had instructed, Luo Tian naturally did as she said. Next, Yun Jioga began to pack his luggage and secretly collected Yin attribute materials. Yin pills were not popular in the Thunder Nation. There were very few Yin attribute materials. The more common ones were corpse stargrass and netherbone flower. Yun Jioga did not refuse anything. He collected everything he saw. After spending more than 500 spiritual jades, he managed to collect some. Next, the bone refining materials that the Gong family had collected for him arrived. They filled a storage bag, worth 5,000 spiritual jades. They were very sincere. In addition, Yun Jioga also refined many poisons and knockout drugs to protect himself. Without spiritual power, he could only rely on external items. The Thunder Snake illusionary whip definitely could not be used, so he could only temporarily seal it. The pink little mother goo was still in the cocoon. He did not know how long it would take before it evolved, so he had to bring it with him. The Pippy mouse was still unconscious. It looked like it was going to sleep until the end of time. Yun Jioga listened to Zishang's instructions and stuffed the flower spirit pearl he obtained from the bloodthirsty sect into its mouth. He hoped that it would wake up soon and explain the mystery of learning the beast language. He could not tell anyone about going to the corpse sect, but he could tell the treasure-seeking scorpion. Yun Jioga's original intention was for the couple to find another master. After all, there was a certain risk in following her to the corpse sect. However, the treasure-seeking scorpion was determined to follow Yun Jioga to the ends of the earth. It was willing to hide in the bag every day. Seeing that the treasure-seeking scorpion was so sincere, Yun Jioga agreed to let it continue to follow them. The thing she prepared filled 3 storage bags. She could not bring this storage bag with her, so she could only let Zishang carry it. No matter what happened, Zishang would be by her side. Yun Jioga settled the inside and outside of the Yun residence. She asked Mother Qing and Elder Hua to look after the house. Then, she and Luo Tian quietly went to the 100,000 mountains of Miaojiang. The two of them traveled for 10 days and arrived near the Dabi Mountains. Yun Jioga left a letter and left with Zishang. Chapter 276. Dabi Mountain Demonic Wind Cave. Yun Jioga looked at the dark tomb and expressionlessly asked Zishang, "This is the method you came up with?" "That's right." Zishang nodded. It wasn't easy for him to find such an old tomb. "Do you think I look like a man?" Yun Jioga was speechless. She thought Zishang really came up with a good idea, but it was just a dirty trick. He said that she would pretend to be a youth that entered the cave by mistake, and he would pretend to be a 1,000-year-old corpse to pester her. This way, they could enter Yin Corpse sect. Did he think Yin Corpse sect people were stupid? No matter how flat her chest was, she was still a woman. "Eat this illusion grass and you'll become a man." Zishang took out a spirit grass that emitted moonlight. This is the illusion grass that can change one's appearance after eating it. Even a great spirit master can't see through it. Yun Jioga heard that this grass was extinct and didn't expect Zishang to be able to find it. The spirit grass was milky white, and only the size of a thumb. The hazy light it emitted was very strong. Looking at it for a long time would make one dizzy. "That's right, try it." Zishang handed it to Yi Jioga. Yun Jioga swallowed the illusion grass. She didn't feel anything special, but when she looked in the mirror, she found that she had become very masculine. Her chest was flat, and her throat was protruding. She was just short of growing a nipple. Her face was changed by the poison, and was completely different from before. Adding on her gender, even Mother Qing wouldn't be able to recognize her if she stood in front of her. "What about you?" Yun Jioga looked at Zishang. Even if he didn't look human, He didn't look like a 1,000-year-old corpse. That's easy. Zishang's body flashed and his appearance immediately changed. When he was a Yao, he had silver hair and purple eyes. When he was a human, he had black hair and black eyes. Now that he was a corpse, his body immediately emitted a thick death aura. His hair and eyes turned gray. His eyes were gray and extremely faint, looking especially eerie and strange without any emotion or humanity. A faint red appeared between his eyebrows. It looked like a drop of blood or a bloody eye. Looking at it made people tremble. But they couldn't help but look a few more times. Because Zishang, who had turned into a 1,000-year-old corpse, was still very beautiful. I say, can't you be a little more low-key? He was still so beautiful even after turning into an old corpse. He must have done it on purpose. I, the Supreme Overlord, am already very low profile. There was nothing that could be done about it. My appearance is too high. No matter how I try to lower it, I will still be more beautiful than a mortal. Yin Jioge was helpless against Zishang's shameless behavior. He could only ask, what should we do next? There's a corpse driver called Yin Shirley near the Dabi Mountains. He's an outer sect disciple of the corpse sect. When he finds us, he'll naturally introduce you to the corpse sect. Zishang had already planned this. Although the Yin corpse sect's requirements for accepting disciples were very low, it was not that easy to enter the core. With a recommender, he could save a lot of cultivation techniques. Alright, Yin Jioge had no choice but to wait. Dabi Mountain Blackwater Stronghold. There were only a dozen or so families in this stronghold, and all of them specialized in the business of driving corpses. The chief of the stronghold was called Yin Shirley. During this period of time, the villagers often reported to Yin Shirley that something always happened when they drove the zombies through the demonic wind cave. Many of the walking corpses would suddenly kneel on the ground and refuse to move. The demonic wind cave was famous for being a place with heavy Yin energy within a radius of 100 miles. Yin Shirley had explored this place before and discovered a very ancient tomb. There were many pits set up for the living in the surroundings. The owner of the tomb had already turned into a broken skeleton and was not suitable for refining corpses, so he did not pay attention to it. But now that such a strange thing had happened, something must have gone wrong. That night, after midnight, Yin Shirley secretly went to the demonic wind cave. He saw that the Yin energy at the entrance of the cave was black. When the wind blew past, it sounded like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of wolves. A timid person would be scared to death. Yin Shirley cautiously followed the tunnel into the tomb. The deeper he went, the thicker the death energy became. In the end, he discovered that it was as thick as ink. But amidst this thick aura of death, there was a faint fragrance. Yin Shirley's eyes instantly lit up. This fragrance was the smell of a top-grade living corpse. Could there be a corpse king here? He instantly became extremely excited. After joining the corpse sect for so many years, he could only get the status of an outer sect steward. If he could really find a corpse king and present it to the sect master, he would definitely be promoted. Yin Shirley formed a seal with both hands and swiped between his eyebrows. He saw that his entire eye had turned black and was suffused with a faint glow. This was the unique technique that he had cultivated for many years, the corpse pupil. It was especially sharp when used to observe death energy. It was because of this that he became the outer sect steward of the corpse sect. In his pitch-black vision, a thick death energy was as conspicuous as a white light, guiding him to the depths of the tomb. He followed the white light to the coffin of the previous tomb owner, and realized that the death energy was coming from below the coffin. Could there be another world under the coffin? Yin Shirley pushed the coffin open, and realized that there was indeed a tunnel that led downwards. But it was something that he had not discovered previously. He walked straight down the tunnel, and realized that there was actually another tomb underground. Moreover, it was more luxurious than the one above. It's actually a tomb within a tomb. No wonder he did not discover it previously. There was a bronze coffin in the middle of the tomb, and the death energy was extremely thick. It seemed like the corpse king should be inside. Yin Shirley's heart involuntarily jumped a few times. He took out a 7-inch black nail that was densely engraved with corpse-fixing incantations. It was an evil weapon that was specially used to deal with zombies. Ian Shirley took a deep breath and circulated his energy. After pushing the bronze coffin open, he ruthlessly hammered the nail into the coffin without even looking. Ah! A cry of pain came from inside the coffin. Ian Shirley was shocked. No matter how powerful the corpse king was, it was impossible for it to speak. There was actually a living person inside. He took 2 steps back and lit up the torch. His pupil technique also returned to its original state, and he saw a youth in black climbing out of the coffin. He looked like he was only 17 or 18 years old. He had deathly pale skin, light red eyes, and deep purple lips. He had a very strange sense of beauty, and under the light of the fire, he was even more dazzling. Who are you? Why did you nail me? Yin Joga looked at the ordinary-looking middle-aged uncle in front of him and questioned him fiercely. They had agreed to accept disciples, but why did they nail him? The people of the corpse sect were really too violent and unreasonable. Sorry, little brother. I thought you were a corpse king, so I wanted to use the soul-suppressing nail to suppress you. Ian Shirley quickly returned to his senses and asked carefully, "Why is little brother here?" "I don't know either." Yin Joga held her forehead and pretended to be in a daze. She blurted out the lie that Zishang had made up for her. Her identity was Yin Jiao, and she grew up in the Debi Mountains. Her father died early, and she lived with her grandfather. Some time ago, she accidentally fell into the demonic wind tunnel while hunting, and when she woke up, she found herself lying in a coffin. Chapter 277. My grandfather must be very anxious in the mountains. I have to go back, Yin Jiuga said as he climbed out of the coffin. Is brother Yin Jiu's grandfather known as the Old Hunter? Ian Shirley asked Yin Jiuga with a strange expression. How do you know my grandfather's name? Yin Jiuga raised her eyebrows. She thought that Zishang had made up this identity. She didn't expect him to really exist. Your grandfather passed away a few days ago. The people in your village pooled together some money and asked us to send him to his hometown for burial. This was the order that the Black Wind Stronghold had received 10 days ago. It was said that the old hunter had left some money before he died and asked the villagers to help the Black Wind Stronghold get rid of the corpse. He said that he wanted to return to his hometown to be buried with his wife, who had passed away decades ago. At that time, Ian Shirley had asked about the situation. He knew that the old hunter's grandson had died hunting in the mountains some time ago. Even the corpse had not been found. It seemed like it was this demonic youth in front of him. My grandfather is dead. Yin Jioga wanted to pretend to be grief-stricken, but his poisoned face couldn't show much emotion. His eyes only became wet. My condolences, little brother. Ian Shirley sighed and said solemnly, This tomb is very dangerous. Why don't you leave with me first? Although Ian Shirley was the outer sect leader of the Ian Corpse sect, he wasn't a bloodthirsty person. He saw that this youth called Yin Jiao looked like he had been poisoned, so he wanted to save his life. No, I can't leave here. Yin Jioga shook his head. His eyes were filled with fear. He will kill me. Who is he? Ian Shirley asked curiously. He is the most perverted, evil, and terrifying man in the world, Yin Jioga said as he glanced behind him. Damn, Zishang still hadn't shown up. She couldn't act anymore. A cold wind suddenly blew in the sealed tomb, bringing with it a faint fragrance. In the next second, Ian Shirley was sent flying by a huge force. Then, he was grabbed by the neck and lifted into the air. He struggled with all his might and realized that a beautiful living corpse had appeared beside Yin Jioga. Smoke-gray hair and pupils, with a smear of red between the eyebrows, made the eerie and terrifying tomb look like a painting. Ian Shirley was stunned. He even forgot that his life was in the hands of this walking corpse. Let go of him. Yin Jioga slapped Zishang's arm hard. Don't kill him. Zishang released his grip expressionlessly, and Ian Shirley fell to the ground. Big brother Ian, are you all right? Yin Jioga asked kindly. Cough, cough, cough. Ian Shirley coughed painfully for a long time. Then, he looked at Zishang carefully and asked, Is this the terrifying man you were talking about? That's right. He was the one who captured me from Demonic Wind Cave and locked me up here. As Yin Jioga spoke, he lifted his foot and kicked Zishang's, but leaving a large footprint on his clothes. Zishang was infuriated. Unfortunately, He was currently playing the role of a zombie. He couldn't have any expression, so he couldn't teach Yun Jioga a lesson. All he could do was secretly remember this grudge. I see. Yin Tenli instantly understood. The living corpse in front of him was most likely the legendary 1,000-year-old corpse. It was said that this kind of living corpse was agile and had a certain level of intelligence. It would choose a partner with sufficient yang energy to sign a contract with. This young man Yun Jioga was most likely chosen by him. Speaking of which, this young man called Yun Jioga was indeed very good-looking. He used to be a hunter, so his physique was probably not bad. No wonder this living corpse took a liking to him. Big brother Yin, please save me. He won't let me leave this tomb, and he's always sucking my blood. Yun Jioga touched his neck. There was probably a hole made by Zishang's teeth. He's already sucked your blood? Yin Tenli was shocked and asked solemnly. I have a very personal question. Although it's a little offensive, I hope little brother can answer it honestly. This is very likely related to your life. Big brother Yin, please speak. Yun Jioga replied seriously. Have you ever had any intimate physical contact with this Yin corpse? Yin Tenli asked solemnly. An unnatural expression appeared on Yun Jioga's pale face. It wasn't just intimate contact. He was basically forced to dual cultivate with Zishang every single night. Yin Tenli understood with one look. He let out a sigh and said, looking at little brother's expression, you should have already done it with him. Actually, I've heard before that after some Yin corpses become spirits, in order to pursue yang qi, other than sucking blood, they would also mix with each other. That's why you became like this. What you mean is that I became like this because of this Yin corpse. Yun Jioga found that Yin Tenli was really good at this. He didn't need to say much to help her think of a good reason. That's right. You've been poisoned by a very deep corpse poison. If you don't get rid of it in time, I'm afraid your life will be in danger. Yin Tenli wasn't just being an alarmist. He had been controlling corpses for so many years, and had seen too many people die from the corpse poison. Then what should I do? Can't you help me subdue him? Yun Jioga asked. Little brother, this Yin corpse has already become a spirit. Moreover, you already have a blood contract with him. He has already recognized you, so I'm afraid I can't subdue him. Yin Tenli said with pity. He was also very envious of this living corpse. It was a pity that a living corpse with a blood contract had a strong possessiveness towards its contractor. Even if he killed Yun Jioga, he wouldn't be able to obtain this living corpse. Instead, he would be chased to the end. Then I can only wait for death like this? Yun Jioga shouted in her heart. Hurry up and introduce me to the Yin corpse sect. That's not it. There are so many cultivation techniques in this world. But there is a cultivation technique that can restrain Yin corpses. It is the cultivation technique of the Yin corpse sect, one of the 5 great evil sections. Old brother happens to be the outer sect steward of the Yin corpse sect. If little brother wants to go, I can introduce you to the sect. As long as you learn our sect's profound cultivation technique, you will definitely be able to suppress the corpse poison and live for 100 years. Yin Tenli was very confident in this. No matter what this little brother's talent was, just the fact that he had this kind of Yin corpse meant that he was destined to be an amazing person. Yin corpse sect, that sounds too strange. Yun Jioga acted as if she didn't understand the world and was very hesitant. Little brother, it's not that old brother is laughing at you, but I'm afraid that your current experience is even stranger than the Yin corpse sect. Yin Tenli bitterly laughed. Even in the Yin corpse sect, it was very rare for someone to be raped by a 1,000-year-old monk and to be treated as a wife. Old brother is right. Then please introduce me. Yun Jioga acted as if he was trying everything in a desperate situation. If that's the case, then I will first teach brother Yun Jioga a method to control corpses. Bring this living corpse and follow me down the mountain. We can discuss this further. Yin Tenli asked Yun Jioga to drip a drop of blood on Zishang's forehead and communicate with him, so that he would cooperate. Before Yun Jioga came, he had also studied some cultivation techniques related to controlling corpses. He knew that Yin Tenli's method was very correct, so he did as he was told. After Zishang sucked Yun Jioga's blood, He put on an obedient look and obediently followed her down the mountain. Chapter 278. In the Black Wind Stronghold, there were very few people in the day, so the corpse controllers were all resting in their homes. In the middle of the stronghold was a green-tiled and red brick courtyard. This was the home of the stronghold master, Ian Shirley. Brother Yunjio doesn't need to be polite, just treat it like your own home. Ian Shirley warmly welcomed Yunjioga into his home. Yunjioga entered the courtyard and smelled a faint corpse aura coming from inside. "Ame, I'm back," Ian Shirley shouted towards the house. The red wooden door opened, and a young woman wearing a red buffalo dress walked out. She was around 20 years old with an oval face and willow leaf-shaped eyebrows. She was very pretty, but her expression was wooden, and her movements were a bit stiff. "This is my wife Ame," Ian Shirley introduced. Yunjioga's eyelids twitched. This Ame was clearly a Ian corpse. Did this fellow have a necrophilia? Following that, a little Ian corpse boy walked out of the house. He was around 5 years old, and wore a tiger head hat and a red satin jacket. His eyebrows were very similar to Ame's, but his face and mouth were like Ian Shirley's. One look, and you could tell that he was their child. "This is my son, Huzi." Ian Shirley kindly rubbed Huzi's head and said, "Come, say hello to brother Yunjio." Huzi nodded his head in a daze. The tiger head hat slid forward, revealing the back of his head. Yunjioga's sharp eyes saw that the back of Huzi's head was a bit sunken, like it had been hit by something heavy. Huzi was too naughty when he was young. He accidentally fell into the mountain and smashed his head. Ame jumped down after him. "I asked an expert to help me protect their corpses. Later on, I learned how to refine corpses and refine them into Ian corpses. Our family is still together," Ian Shirley said calmly. The Ian corpse sect people refined corpses to increase their cultivation and help them in battle, but he refined corpses to reunite with his family. He never gave them orders and just raised them at home. In order to take care of his family, he applied to be a steward of the outer sect and set up the Blackwater Stronghold as a corpse controller. On the surface, it was to help those who died in a foreign land return to their homes. But if he found any good corpse refining materials, he would secretly take them and give them to the sect. Big brother Ian is really sentimental. Yunjioga looked at the family and was very touched. It turned out that not every heretic cultivator was a bad person. This Ian surely wasn't bad. Although refining his dead wife and children into Ian corpses and raising them in his home was perverted, it was still much better than Siyue and the bloodthirsty ancestor. That night, Ian Shirley personally cooked a sumptuous dinner for Yunjioga. He arranged for them to sleep in the small room at the back. In the dead of the night, Yunjioga was sleeping soundly when Zishang jumped onto the bed and pulled at her clothes. "Are you crazy? This is Ian Shirley's house. He's sleeping next door." Yunjioga slapped Zishang's claws away. Although Ian Shirley had refined his wife into a Ian corpse, he didn't use her as a wife. Instead, he let her live in the same house as his son. She wouldn't fool around even if she was a proper husband and wife. Zishang was too much of a beast. Even if he turned into a 1,000-year-old corpse, he wouldn't let her off. "It's precisely because he's next door that I want to dual cultivate. Otherwise, how could he believe that I signed a contract with you? Besides, if we don't dual cultivate, your poison will soon take effect." Zishang confidently took off Yunjioga's pants and then slapped her butt. This stinky girl dared to kick him today. She was looking for a beating. Damn you. Yunjioga had no choice but to cooperate with Zishang. The two of them quickly joined together. It was still the position of the woman on top and the man on the bottom. This wooden bed was very thin. Even a slight movement would make a ee sound. The two of them, one on the top and the other on the bottom, shook the wooden bed until it almost fell apart. Even a dead person would know what they were doing. Yunjioga thought of Ian Shirley being woken up by them in the next room and felt extremely ashamed. "What are you thinking about? Focus on cultivating." Zishang had a serious expression on his face as he reprimanded her. "Fuck, a 1,000-year-old teacher, like you doesn't even care about face. Elder sister will also go all out." Yin Yoga also hardened her heart. She didn't think about the large bed that was about to collapse. She focused on cultivating with Zishang. The ee sounds passed through the thin walls and entered Ian Shirley's ears. He couldn't help but feel that the 1,000-year-old corpse was indeed too ferocious. How could Yin Yoga's small body withstand it? It was better to quickly send him to the sect to cultivate. The earlier he cultivated, the earlier he could get used to this rhythm of being suppressed. After all, he would be suppressed for a lifetime. As Ian Shirley thought about this, he went to the next room to look at his wife and child, who were lying stiffly on the bed. His emotions calmed down. He loved his wife and child very much. Sometimes, he would also have the impulse of a man. However, he knew very well that his wife was already dead. What was left was only her physical body. His wife had always been very particular about the pleasures of the bedroom. She would never allow him to use her body as a tool. Ian Shirley respected and loved her. Hence, when the people in the sect spoke nonsense, she never quibbled or did anything about it. Speaking of which, he used to admire that 1,000-year-old corpse. He was indeed very valiant. He had just woken up from the ancient tomb, and he immediately kidnapped a man from a good family. He even forced himself on her. He was gay. It would be great if his wife could also cultivate to become a demon and force herself on him. As Ian Shirley thought about this, he gently kissed his wife and child. Then, he covered himself with a blanket and fell asleep. Zishang's words were ferocious, but his actions were actually very gentle. After practicing with Yin Yoga for one cycle, he stopped and gently hugged her in his arms. Yin Yoga exhaled a breath of white mist. She lay in Zishang's arms without moving. Ever since the poisonous gas spread, her body always felt cold. Only by hugging Zishang's warm body could she sleep well. Aren't snakes cold-blooded animals? Why are you so warm? Yin Yoga stuffed her cold feet into Zishang's thighs. How many times have I told you? This noble one is not a snake. Zishang placed Yin Yoga's cold feet in his arms and rubbed them. If you're not a snake, then what are you? Yin Yoga had also asked Zishang this question countless times. You wouldn't understand even if I told you. Unfortunately, Zishang always avoided it. He wouldn't say it even if he was beaten to death. Tisk! Yin Yoga snorted in disdain. After she felt that her feet had warmed up, she fell asleep peacefully. She could always sleep peacefully by Zishang's side. Anyway, even if the sky collapsed, Zishang would be there to hold it up. When she slept until dawn, Ian Shirley had already woken up early to cook. Little brother, did you sleep well last night? Ian Shirley acted as if he didn't know what happened last night. He still asked very enthusiastically. It was all right. Yin Yoga sat down calmly. Zishang naturally stuck closely to her side, looking very possessive. Ever since Ian Shirley defined Zishang as a 1,000-year-old corpse with an extremely strong possessive desire, he had perfectly implemented the 3 words possessive desire. He was the perfect embodiment of the word possessiveness, sticking to Yin Yoga's side at all times. Chapter 279. Yin Yoga could tell that this was probably one of the reasons why Zishang wanted her to go to corpse sect. In the past, he was either sleeping in the imprint or kept a low profile when she asked him to. He probably couldn't hold it in anymore. Now that he found a chance to be by her side openly, he was probably bubbling with happiness. Ian Shirley looked at Zishang and sighed in his heart again. A 1,000-year-old corpse was indeed different. Its actions were like a living person. Apart from the lack of life and vitality, it was no different from a real person. It would definitely shock people when she went to corpse sect. Brother Yunjio, there are 10 days left before corpse sect accepts disciples. Take this token, and you can directly participate in the entrance trial. As long as there are no accidents, it won't be a problem for you to enter the outer sect. Ian Shirley took out a black token with a skull carved on it from his bosom. This token was a good thing. Not only could it prevent Yin Yoga from being questioned and harassed by corpse sect, it also gave her a 90% chance to directly enter the outer sect as a disciple. Thank you, Brother Ian. Yin Yoga took the token and felt that she already had half a foot in corpse sect. We will be in the same sect in the future. When you become rich, don't forget me. Ian Shirley said with a smile. He thought very highly of Yinjiao. Of course, Yinjioga had a good impression of this Yin Shirley. Brother Yinjiao, although you are talented in corpse control and have such a powerful 1,000-year-old corpse by your side, it won't be difficult for you to enter the inner sect. However, I still suggest that you don't let him out when you participate in the outer sect selection. It'll be better to start as an outer sect disciple. This was Yin Shirley's experience. Although Yinjiao had a 1,000-year-old corpse, he didn't have any cultivation and was poisoned. If he attracted the jealousy of others, they might want to kill him before he matured. Okay, I'll listen to Brother Yin. Yinjioga originally planned to start as a low-level disciple. She entered corpse sect with her identity hidden. It wasn't good for her to be in the limelight. Starting as an outer sect disciple was also a good way to find out the ins and outs of corpse sect. She really wanted to know how Su Junqing was doing in corpse sect, and whose disciple Siyue was. Speaking of which, Zishang had beaten the demon corpse and Siyue half to death last time. He wondered if they had successfully returned to the Yin corpse sect. It would have been great if they had died on the way. Yinjioga's wish was beautiful, but it was a pity that reality did not go as he wished. Although the Yin corpse had lost 2 arms and his cultivation had dropped, he still successfully brought Siyue back to the Yin corpse sect's enemy mountain, outside Chosen's cave. Third disciple Jin Yanwei stared in shock at the demon corpse with its broken arms and the unconscious Siyue on the ground. This demon corpse was a top-quality Yin corpse that his master had carefully refined for many years. Although it was only an intermediate soul master, its body was made of iron, and it had a high resistance to spiritual energy, so it was very powerful. He didn't expect that he would be injured to this extent. There was also Siyue. Although she wasn't Master's direct disciple, she had benefited greatly from Master's charm techniques. His cultivation was not high, but his ability to control corpses was extremely strong, and he was especially good at escaping. Even if he could wake up, he would be a cripple. Jin Yanwei was both shocked and angry in his heart. He very much wanted to immediately rush to Blood Cloud Peak to investigate what exactly was going on, but he did not dare to. The demon corpse and Siyue were both beaten like this. He would just be sending himself to his death if he went. AI. Why did this happen when his master was bringing his big apprentice brother and second apprentice sister out to visit friends? Jin Yanwei was very anxious. His master had sent Siyue to deal with the Blood Cloud Peak matter, because he didn't want this matter to be exposed. After all, secretly cultivating the Blood Lotus was not allowed by the sect. If this spread out, other than being punished by the sect, the people from the Spirit Practitioner Alliance would not let this go. But he couldn't just leave it like this. At this time he suddenly thought of something. A few days ago, there was a man named Su Junqing who entered the outer sect with Siyue's token. Perhaps he knew something. Jin Yanwei immediately called over a young disciple and had him go to the outer sect to find Su Junqing. The young disciple quickly came back and reported, "Senior apprentice brother Jin, Su Junqing is no longer in the outer sect." Then where did he go? Jin Yanwei was shocked. Did he run away? I heard that Su Junqing was recognized by Elder Mo Hua and was accepted as an inner sect disciple. The young disciple said with a look of disdain. Elder Mo Hua was from the Hehuan sect before, but after coming to the Yin corpse sect, he still did not change his lecherous nature. He liked to accept young and handsome men as his disciples. Although he was a disciple, he was actually a male pet. Elder Mo Hua? Jin Yanwei immediately knit his brows. Siyue had always looked up to Elder Mo Hua, so the men she brought to the Yin corpse sect must be the type that used their looks. No wonder Elder Mo Hua liked him. Senior apprentice brother Jin, what do we do now? The young disciple asked. All right, you can go. I'll personally go to Elder Mo Hua's place. Jin Yanwei was Chosen's third direct disciple, so he had a higher status than Su Junqing, who was a male pet. But Su Junqing was currently favored by Elder Mo Hua, so him personally going over was also giving Elder Mo Hua face. Jin Yanwei personally went to Inkflower Peak, but he heard that Su Junqing was in closed-door cultivation refining his Yin corpse. Didn't junior apprentice brother Su just enter the sect a few days ago? How did he find his own Yin corpse? Jin Yanwei asked the disciple guarding the gate in surprise. Yin corpse sect disciples were very particular about refining their Yin corpses. Not only did they have to match their own 5 elements, they also had to have a special ability to use the Yin corpse to its fullest potential. Many disciples couldn't find a suitable corpse even after entering the sect for several years, so they would rather not refine it. This Su Junqing wouldn't be randomly refining it in order to quickly master his cultivation technique, right? Senior apprentice brother Su brought a Yin spirit Tao body woman that matches his 5 elements. The Ink Flower Peak disciple said in an envious voice. He still hadn't found a suitable Yin corpse for himself. This brat is quite lucky, Jin Yanwei muttered, and then said to the disciple, when junior apprentice brother Su comes out, let me know. He didn't have time to guard this place. He had to first report the situation of Blood Cloud Peak to his master. Jin Yanwei quickly left, but he didn't know that Su Junqing had just finished refining. He was already at the gate, but after hearing his words he turned back. Su Junqing turned his head to look at the beautiful red-clothed Yin corpse sitting next to him. His palm gently stroked her white and tender skin, his eyes filled with a crazy love. Yunji, the first time I saw you, I knew that you were my destined woman. Sure enough, you and I are a match made in heaven. I know that Yu is your only family, and you've always loved him. Wait for me to find him, and let him be your companion, all right? Chapter 280. Yi Yunji sat there woodenly. Her pair of beautiful eyes had long lost the light of life. When Su Junqing brought Yi Yunji to Yin Corpse sect, he did not expect her to have a Yin spirit Tao body. Yi Yu and Yi Yunji were biological siblings. He also had a red mole between his eyebrows, and his talent was better than Yi Yunji's. Maybe he also had a special physique. If he could also refine him into a Yin corpse, he would definitely have a place in Yin Corpse sect. This way, he would not have to worry about Elder Mo Hua getting tired of him and not having a backer. Su Junqing thought of the glorious days in the future and became excited, wishing he could immediately capture Yi Yu. But he quickly suppressed this thought. From Jin Yanwei's tone, Siyu seemed to have encountered something big, and he was afraid it would implicate him. In another 10 days, Yin Corpse sect would widely accept disciples. At that time, he and Elder Mo Hua would take an errand and hide for a while. 10 days later, Yin Corpse sect would open their doors and start accepting disciples. Every year at this time, Yin Corpse sect would choose disciples. The threshold to enter was very low. One only needed to be able to recognize words and chant the corpse-controlling arts. Compared to the righteous sects that looked at talent, spirit roots, and bloodline, this threshold was terrifyingly low. But if a righteous sect accepted 100 disciples, at least 89 of them would successfully survive in the sect. Even if they died, most of them would die outside. In Yin Corpse sect, it was the opposite. Out of 1,000 disciples, at most 90 would survive. The rest would die in the sect's battles. It could be imagined how cruel the competition was. Yin Shirley had specially told Yun Jioga about this. A merciful person could not become a disciple of an evil sect. Yun Jioga expressed her understanding. As a righteous person, she disguised herself as a corpse poison youth to enter the demonic sect. If she met those vicious people, she would naturally kill them if she could, getting rid of a scourge for the people. Yun Jioga followed Yin Shirley's directions to the foot of Yin Corpse sect, and saw a large crowd of people crowding there to register. Damn, was being an evil cultivator so popular these days? This area of 1,000 miles is Yin Corpse sect's territory. If you want to cultivate, you can only come here. Zishang followed Yun Jioga invisibly and transmitted his voice. Yun Jioga thought of a saying, barren mountains and unruly rivers produce unruly people. This Yin Corpse sect was surrounded by deep mountains and forests, with very little fertile land. The commoners probably did not have a good life. When the days really couldn't go on, there was no other way out but to become an evil cultivator. In the center of the crowd was a circle of blood-red tables and chairs. Behind them stood 4 men and 4 women. They were registering the people who had come to register. There was a red form on each table. Those who wanted to sign up had to fill in their names, ages, places of origin, spiritual roots, and other information. Finally, they would sign their names and leave their blood stamp on it. The embark sect can use this blood mark to verify whether your information is true or not. Yunjoga didn't need to fill in the form. He just needed to drip his blood on the token that Shirley had given him. She took the token and walked directly to the blood-red table. Behind the table stood a woman in her early 30s. Other than the embark sect skeleton mark on her chest, there was also a small black flower, which meant that she was Elder Emohua's disciple. Her eyebrows were slender, and the corners of her eyes were raised. There was a black mole under her eye. She could be considered pretty, but she didn't look very decent. Blackwater Strongholds surely recommended me. Yunjoga handed over the token. The female disciple took the token and glanced at it. Then she looked at Yunjoga. Her gaze looked like she was raping her. This was the first time in Yunjoga's life that a woman looked at her. However, her poisoned face didn't show any expression. What's the name of this handsome little man? The female disciple's eyes were curved, and she smiled very lewdly. This handsome little man was really not bad. Just looking at him made one's heart itch. Yunjio. Yunjoga replied calmly. Yunjio, is it? Take this token and walk straight in. That's the place where the outer sect disciples test. When the female disciple returned the token to Yunjoga, she even used her pinky to hook Yunjoga's palm. She said ambiguously, "If you don't pass, come back and find Big Sister. Big Sister will think of a way for you." Yunjoga took the token expressionlessly. Then she walked along the path at the side and walked inside. After walking for a long time, she could still feel the female disciple's gaze following her like a shadow. It was as if she wanted to eat her up. Little Joga is very popular. Zishang was still gloating at the side. This is the reason why you wanted me to pretend to be a man, right? Yunjoga had already experienced the degree of openness between men and women in the embark sect from the female disciple just now. If the female disciple was already so thirsty, then there was no need to say about the male disciple. If she entered as a female, she would probably be surrounded by perverts. All of them would want to sleep with her. That's right. Zishang admitted very straightforwardly. Seeing Yunjoga being teased by the demonic woman was very interesting. However, if she was teased by the demonic man, he was afraid that he would not be able to control himself and kill her. You win. Yunjoga was also convinced by Zishang. When Yunjoga arrived at the outer sect disciples' test field, she saw that there were already many people standing on the empty ground. There were about 100 people. There were men, women, old and young. Many of them were wearing strange clothes. With one look, she could tell that they were not good people. When they saw her enter, many people looked at her with obscure gazes. Even among these strange people, her bewitching appearance was very outstanding. Big Sister, did that guy eat something wrong? Why is he so handsome? A lively and cute voice sounded. Yunjoga turned her head and saw a pair of beautiful twin sisters standing there. Although they only looked to be 15 or 16 years old, they were already quite charming. The older sister was called Lu Mei Er. She wore a dark red dress and had a beautiful appearance, faintly revealing her charm. The younger sister was called Lu Tian Er. She wore a light yellow dress and had the same appearance as the older sister. However, she appeared to be innocent and cute. The one who spoke just now was the younger sister. If little sister likes him, then let's go get to know him. Lu Mei Er also smiled and brought Lu Tian Er over to Yunjoga. Yunjoga, however, directly avoided them. She felt that she must have had some bad luck this year. Why were there women who liked her everywhere? She was clearly avoiding them and did not give the two sisters any face. They were immediately put on the spot. Big Sister, does he hate us? Lu Tian Er was suddenly on the verge of tears and looked pitifully at Lu Mei Er. Probably because he looks down on us vulgar people. Lu Mei Er also sighed. When the two sisters put on this appearance, a few pursuers immediately wanted to stand up for them. Hey kid, what do you mean? An arrogant and despotic short man walked toward Yunjoga and said arrogantly, "If you know what's good for you, then apologize to little sister Lu Clan. Otherwise, I will beat you until you lie down." Yin Joga instantly felt that everyone was staring at her. If she showed weakness here, she would immediately be drowned by the wolves. This was the survival law of the evil sections. Chapter 281. Although Yin Joga had already lost her spiritual power, these 3 hooligans were still not a problem. She flicked her finger, and the colorless and odorless black wind powder floated onto the short, strong man's body. The short, strong man's body trembled, and he knelt on the ground in fear. "What did you do to me?" The short, strong man desperately scratched the itch, leaving red marks on his arm, but he did not feel anything. "Nothing, I just gave you some itching powder. If there is no antidote, you will probably die from the itch." Yin Joga said expressionlessly. "Lord, this lowly one had eyes but did not recognize Mount Tai. Please spare my dog life." The short, strong man was also flexible, and immediately begged for mercy while crying. The surrounding people all looked at this, and the unfriendly gazes immediately decreased a lot. The Lu sisters were even more speechless. Fighting could use cultivation, but going against a poison master was courting death. Yin Joga saw that the deterrent effect had been achieved, so she flicked her finger and sprinkled the antidote and said, "Scram! Thank you, Lord." The short, strong man immediately ran away in fear. Yin Joga continued to wait. Some of the more sophisticated people in the surrounding people wanted to come up and greet her, but they were all coldly rejected by her. She came here to secretly learn, so there was no need to be friendly with them. After the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, a youth wearing a black inner sect disciple robe finally walked out from the inner sect mountain path. He was very handsome and had an amiable smile on his face, making people feel happy at first glance. Yin Joga's heart tightened when she saw this person. Su Junqing. She did not expect him to be in charge of the outer sect disciple test. One must know that accepting a disciple was a very important matter. Even evil cultivator sects would send their most trusted disciple to be in charge. Su Junqing had only been in the Yin Corpse sect for a long time, but he was able to take over this kind of work. This meant that he was doing very well here. "Everyone, I am Su Junqing, in charge of this outer sect disciple test. This test's topic is bone picking." Su Junqing said a few words, then directly announced the content of the test. The content of the test was very simple. It was to go to the mass grave and find a skeleton that they thought had the most spirituality. The stronger the spirituality of the skeleton they found, the better the treatment they would receive in the sect in the future. Other than corpse control, our Yin Corpse sect also has all kinds of puppet techniques. Among them, refining bones is the most common. Bones are the foundation of the human body. First learn the bone refining technique, then you can refine corpses. Picking bones is also a very common practice for Yin Corpse sect outer disciples, so everyone must work hard. Su Junqing kindly explained. "Senior, none of us have learned the art of looking at bones. How do we know which skeleton has spirituality?" Lu Tian'er blinked her big watery eyes with a face of ignorance. "I will give you a bone measuring talisman. As long as you stick it on the bones you like, you will be able to test the spirit force contained in the bones. However, this talisman can only be used once, so everyone must be careful when using it." Su Junqing said with a smile. Yin Joga immediately understood the purpose of this test. This was encouraging everyone to snatch their opponent's bone measuring talismans. The more talismans he snatched, the higher his chances of finding a spiritual skeleton. Even if it was stolen, there was no need to be afraid. Just bring back a random skeleton. If you guessed correctly, it proved that your luck was not bad, that you had good fortune, and that you were worth nurturing. This test was killing many birds with one stone. Everyone line up and come get your talismans. Su Junqing gave out the bone measuring talismans one by one. Yin Joga expressionlessly took the bone measuring talismans, ignoring Su Junqing's glance. When the Lu sisters received the talismans, they faintly gave Su Junqing a flirtatious look. He tacitly accepted it. When everyone received the talismans, they immediately spread out and looked at the people next to them with vigilance and greed in their eyes. "Big sister, the mass grave is very gloomy, I'm scared." Lu Tian'er pulled Lu Meier's sleeve and pitifully said. Don't be afraid, you'll get used to it. Lu Mei Er comforted her little sister, but her face was a bit pale. Beauties, don't be afraid, I'll protect you. The short man who was drugged by Yin Jioga immediately came forward. Then there were a few men who were interested in the Lu sisters, fighting to be the flower protectors. A group of men protected the two sisters, majestically walking towards the mass grave. Yin Jioga looked at them, and chose the opposite direction. She had just revealed her poison attack, so no one dared to have any ideas about her talismans. She also had no interest in stealing from others. Yin Jioga directly arrived at the mass grave. Although the sun was still hanging in the sky, the mass grave was filled with Yin energy. Gray fog shrouded the sky. The ground was filled with eerie white bones, and one could even see ghost flames floating in the air. There aren't any spiritual corpses outside, we have to go inside, Zishang said in Yin Jioga's ear. Then let's go. Yin Jioga just wanted to find a random set of corpses to complete her task. The fog in the depths of the mass grave was even thicker, completely blocking out the sunlight, and a cold and damp air rose from the ground. Yin Jioga was originally a bit afraid of the cold, and now she felt like she was soaking in ice water. She ate 2 warm yang pills, and only then did she feel a bit better. Bear with it a bit more. You'll be fine after you practice the Yin corpse sex cultivation method. Zishang comforted from the side. Yin corpse sect mainly controlled corpses, but the Yin energy of the corpses was too thick, and the corrosive power was very strong after being together for a long time. Yin corpse sex cultivation method was to convert the Yin energy into spiritual energy, reducing the damage to the body, and it was very suitable for Yin Jioga's current situation. I'm fine. Yin Jioga was used to the cold. What she was not used to was that her dantian was now empty, and without spiritual energy, she could not open her spiritual eye. It was very difficult to find corpses with spiritual energy, just by relying on that talisman. It was easy to rely on Zishang, but Yin Jioga did not want to rely on him until the very last moment, so she decided to try it herself. The white bones on the ground were very messy, and Yin Jioga did not find a complete set of bones after walking 1 round, but she was not willing to dig up the grave. At this moment, the treasure-seeking scorpion suddenly popped out from Zishang's bag and called out to Yin Jioga. Master, there's a treasure. What treasure? Yin Jioga looked at the treasure-seeking scorpion in surprise and almost forgot about it. I smell a very fragrant smell. The treasure-seeking scorpion jumped down impatiently. It circled around the mass grave with its fat tail needle, and finally stopped in front of a withered old locust tree. The old locust tree was very big, and it needed 3 people to encircle it. The leaves were withered, and the branches were grayish-white, as though it was half dead. The treasure-seeking scorpion circled around the old locust tree a few times, and then burrowed into the ground. After a moment it popped out, and said with certainty, "The treasure is underneath. Dig it." Yin Jioga looked at Zishang. She did not have any spiritual energy, and did not have any tools, so she could only rely on Zishang for this kind of hard work. Zishang did not refuse, and half squatted on the ground, and placed his palm under the big locust tree. The brown soil, along with the broken bones, retreated to the side, and revealed an incomparably thick grayish-white tree root, which looked like a small coffin. Chapter 282. Zishang's fingernails extended and cut a hole on the tree root. Gray yin qi spewed out and fog filled the air. Yin Jioga waved his palm to get rid of the fog, and saw that the yin qi in the center of the tree root was as thick as water. A small gray corpse was curled up inside like a baby. It looked like a 3 or 4-year-old child. Although its bones were like a human's, its head was like a monkey's. Profound yin white bone monkey. Zishang raised his eyebrows and looked at Yin Jioga in admiration. You're really lucky. This profound yin white bone monkey is condensed from extreme yin energy. If you refine it into a puppet and keep it by your side, it will be extremely beneficial for cultivating the yin corpse sex cultivation method. Yin Jioga was currently in the outer sect. It was not suitable for a 1,000-year-old corpse like him to appear in front of people. Having a profound yin white bone monkey puppet by his side would be of great help to him. Fat Scorpion, good job. Yin Yoga happily rewarded treasure-seeking Scorpion with 2 bottles of cherry pills. This fat Scorpion was always very helpful at crucial times. Jijiji. Treasure-seeking Scorpion happily hugged the 2 bottles of cherry pills and climbed back into the cloth bag to find his wife. Yin Yoga wanted to stick the bone-testing talisman on the monkey bone, but was stopped by Zishang. This talisman has Su Juanqing's divine sense on it. If he finds anything good, he will know immediately. Su Juanqing is really despicable, testing to become an outer sect disciple, and still wants to get some benefits. I look down on him. Yin Yoga muttered as she put away the profound white bone monkey. Then, she randomly found a white skeleton that looked good, and stuck the bone-testing talisman on it. The red bone-testing talisman flashed with a faint white light. This meant that although the skeleton contained spiritual energy, it was very little. But no matter what, she had completed her mission. Yin Yoga brought the skeleton back, and found that most of the other people had arrived. The Lu sisters stood at the very front. The flower protectors from before had already disappeared. They had probably become part of the mass grave. It seemed that these 2 sisters were not as naive as they looked. They should have some ability. After all, in a place like the Corpse sect, one could not obtain everything by selling one's body. Other than the flower protectors, there were still a dozen or so people missing. Currently there were only 80 or so people left. The competition between the evil sects was cruel and fierce. Yin Yoga secretly sized up the Lu sisters. He saw that their clothes were clean, and they were in high spirits. They didn't look like they had just fought. He didn't know how they had killed those flower protectors. The white bones placed in front of the 2 sisters were very complete. The bones were pure white, and one could tell at a glance that it was rich in spiritual energy. Yin Yoga silently placed the skeleton he had picked up on the table, and waited for Su Juanqing to inspect it. After Su Juanqing swept out with his spiritual consciousness, he suddenly felt a little disappointed. Among these skeletons, only the bones brought back by the Lu sisters were filled with spiritual power. The others weren't high-grade goods. He had heard that there was a senior who was in charge of this test, and a disciple found a skeleton with profound spiritual power. Later, it was discovered that the disciple was born with dark pupils. That senior martial brother not only picked a good seedling for his mountain peak, but also obtained a good skeleton. It was really a big profit. He had heard of this matter, so he asked Elder Emohua for this task. He didn't expect that the harvest this time was really not that good. When Su Juanqing thought of this, he couldn't help but glance at the Lu sisters and Yin Yoga. He thought to himself, this pair of sisters is not bad, I can develop them. And that youth called Yin Jiu Elder Emohua should like this kind of appearance. Unfortunately, he's too young and looks like a virgin. He probably won't be able to satisfy Elder Emohua's desires. It's better to nurture him first. Yin Yoga stood on the spot expressionlessly. Although Su Juanqing's pimping gaze was hidden, she still noticed it. If it wasn't for the fact that the situation wasn't right, she really wanted to rush up and break his teeth, so that she could interrogate him about Yi Yunji's whereabouts. Calm down. Zishang's voice came from beside her. This Corpse sect was after all a big evil sect. If she gave herself away, she could forget about staying here. Yin Yoga was also very clear about this. She lowered her face, and didn't look at Su Juanqing anymore. The skeletons that everyone picked are not bad. The most outstanding are the 2 Lu sisters, and next is Yin Jiu's. After Su Juanqing made his evaluation, he put all the skeletons into his own pocket. These talismans were all provided by the sect, so the spoils of war naturally belonged to the sect as well. It could be considered as one of the benefits for the disciples in charge of recruiting. The Lu sisters were ranked first, so they received a bottle of energy pills as a reward. Yin Yoga received half a bottle, and the rest were counted by pills. After the rewards were distributed, many people's gazes turned to the Lu sisters and Yin Yoga. They were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred. Yin Yoga chose to ignore them. After the Lu sisters thanked Su Juanqing sweetly, they surrounded him and asked all sorts of questions to get close to him. It could be seen that Su Juanqing was very fond of the 2 sisters. His smile was especially gentle and amiable. However, he was here to receive the outer sect disciples after all, so he didn't stick to the Lu sisters for too long. Soon, he talked about official business again. Congratulations on becoming the outer sect disciples of our Corpse sect. This is your identity token. Everyone, drip your blood on it, and make it your master later. Make sure to keep it safe. This not only represents your identity, but it will also be very useful in the future. Later, everyone will follow the map on this booklet and go to the logistics department to receive your benefits before finding a place to stay. Su Junqing gave everyone a palm-sized gray token and a yellow booklet. After saying a few words of encouragement, he left. Yun Juga let out a sigh of relief. This test was easier than she had imagined. It was all thanks to Shirley. Yun Juga opened the booklet and carefully looked through it. She had a preliminary understanding of the Corpse sect's situation. The Corpse sect was built on a mountain range filled with energy. It extended for dozens of miles. The inner sect was divided into 4 mountain peaks. Other than the main peak, the Corpse Peak, which was occupied by the sect master, the 3 elders each stood on a mountain peak. They were respectively Elder Cho Sen's Enemy Peak, Elder Inkflower's Inkflower Peak, Elder Whitebone's Whitebone Peak. The outer sect had 6 small mountain peaks. The main peak was where the Skill Teaching Hall, Mission Hall, Medicinal Pill Pavilion, and Weapon Refining Pavilion were located. The other 5 mountain peaks each had 1,000 disciples. They were arranged according to their numbers. Yun Joga was assigned to the 2nd mountain peak. She followed the map on the booklet to the 2nd mountain peak, where the logistics department was distributed. She received the standard of an inner sect disciple. The Corpse sect was worthy of being a large sect. Every disciple had a red storage bag, a set of gray disciple robes. There were 2 runes embroidered on the door: cleaning and deodorizing. A low-grade 1 whitebone spike. A low-grade 1 corpse control bell. A basic entry cultivation technique. The storage bag's space was very small. It was only the size of a cabinet, but it was already very good for a new disciple. The whitebone spikes were 2 wide and 3 feet long. They were sharp and could be considered a good weapon. The corpse control bell was gray. Compared to the blood chi bell of the bloodthirsty ancestor, it was simply trash. It could just barely control the whitebone spikes. It was still a bit difficult to use it to control corpses. Chapter 283. Yun Joga took the things and went to the small bungalow that the outer sect disciples lived in. The bungalow was quite big, but there were only old tables and chairs and a moldy smell. Yun Joga was quite satisfied with this. She was worried that she would have to share a room with a group of male disciples. Coincidentally, the Lu sisters lived next to Yun Joga, and they even squeezed into the same bungalow. At this moment, the door of their room was closed and there was no sound. Who knew what they were doing inside? What's with that look? It's like a pervert who covets beauties. Zishang teased Yun Joga. TCH, if sister wants to covet someone, it's a pretty boy, okay? Yun Joga retracted her gaze from the Lu sisters' door. Pretty boy, are you talking about that? Zishang's gaze floated to the right. A fat boy walked out of the bungalow on the right. He wore the outer sect disciples' gray robes tightly, and his body was round like a ball. May I ask for senior brother's name? My name is Jean Lin. We will be neighbors in the future. Please give me some pointers, senior brother. Little fatty Jean Lin grinned. There were 2 deep dimples on his chubby face, making him look very likable. Yun Joga ignored little fatty's greeting and closed the door with a bang. You're too rude. Zishang noticed that Yun Joga was becoming more and more antisocial after being poisoned. If you're polite, then go greet him. Yun Joga's image was cold and antisocial, rejecting all the Corpse sect disciples' attempts to rope him in. Zishang was speechless. Not to mention that he couldn't show himself. Even if he did, he would be an expressionless living corpse that couldn't speak. Greeting him was impossible. Oh right, during the outer sect test. I don't think I saw this little fatty. Yun Joga asked Zishang. She knew that Zishang was very good at recognizing people and never relied on looks. Indeed not. Zishang nodded. So he was selected from the outside. Yin Joga thought about the people that filled the mountains and valleys to register. This little fatty was able to pass the selection so quickly. It seemed like he wasn't a normal person. There was one more person worth paying attention to. Don't think about those useless things. The most important thing now is to cultivate. Zishang urged. Yin Joga took out the outer sect disciple cultivation technique and started studying it with Zishang. The division of cultivation in a large sect was different from that of a spiritualist. According to the density of their spiritual energy, they were divided into the Qi refining stage, the foundation establishment stage, the golden core stage, the nascent soul stage, and the soul formation stage. The corresponding realms of a spiritualist were a rudimentary spiritualist, 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 and spiritualist. There were 10 stages in the Qi refinement stage, and once one reached the peak of the Qi refinement stage, one would have the opportunity to become an inner disciple. Once they entered the foundation establishment stage, they would become elite disciples. If he could form his gold core, that would be awesome. He could totally become an elder. As for nascent soul cultivators and soul formation cultivators, they were all old monsters. They rarely stayed in the faction. They would go to the spiritual city, which was a higher level, to find great opportunities. Zishang carefully examined the technique and said, "There's no problem with this technique. You can practice it." Although this outer sect Yin technique could not compare to the core cultivation technique, the Yin corpse bone controlling technique, it was just right for Yin Joga. Then I'll start practicing. Yin Joga took out the bottle of Yin energy pills that Su Junqing had just rewarded her. Although this bottle of Yin energy pills was of low grade, she didn't have any suitable Yin energy pills on hand, so she could only make do with it. Practice it. I'll help you guard, Zishang said. Yin Joga swallowed a Yin energy pill and sat cross-legged on the bed. She began to circulate and absorb the Yin energy according to the technique. Wisps of gray Yin energy rose from her dantian. It guided the poisonous gas from the 9 broken bones to circulate in her body. It felt like ants were crawling over her. It was an indescribable sour feeling. This was the slightest reaction from the poisonous gas. If she couldn't even endure this, she could forget about expelling the poisonous gas. Yin Joga gritted her teeth and persevered. When she finished, she was already sweating profusely and smelled sour. How do you feel? Zishang held a red paper doll in his hand and asked with concern. What is this? Yin Joga looked at the lifelike red paper doll in Zishang's hand. Its small hands and feet were still struggling. It's just a little bug that wants to get some information. This method of using Yin energy to control the paper doll was a kind of crafty technique. In the territory of the evil sects and demonic sects, it was not strange for someone to know this method. Let me see. Yin Joga stretched out her hand. Zishang handed the red paper doll over. Yin Joga touched it and felt that the red paper doll was wet and cold. It was especially disgusting. She immediately stuffed it back to Zishang. Is it the Lu sisters or that little fatty? The two of them lived next door. They were the most likely to come to investigate. It should be the Lu sisters. Zishang deduced based on the direction the red paper doll came from. You really do have some skills. She knew that the Lu sisters were not as simple as they seemed. It doesn't matter if you have 8 skills. Hurry up and train your corpse control technique to the first level, then learn the puppet technique. Zishang rubbed his fingers, and the red paper doll was burned to ashes. He was prepared to personally refine the mystic Yin skeleton monkey. However, if Yin Joga wanted to take it back for her own use, she still had to learn the puppet technique. How do you even know how to refine puppets? Yin Joga couldn't help but admire Zishang. Although this guy often pretended to be weak, it felt like nothing could stump him. Who asked this sovereign to be a 1,000-years-old teacher? Zishang smiled. The longer he lived, the more he knew. You really are addicted to being wet. Yin Joga rolled her eyes. Tonight, you will know how powerful this old teacher is. Zishang winked ambiguously. Because it was not convenient to do it in the Yin Corpse sect, they only did it once every 3 days. The process was also very fast. It was just to prevent Yin Joga's dantian from exploding. Scram! Yin Joga didn't want to tease him. She took out the corpse control bell and prepared to test the white bone thorn. The great Tao of the world was the same. Controlling the corpse control bell was similar to controlling the lightning snake illusionary whip. Yin Joga quickly infused spirit energy into the corpse control bell. Then she shook the bell. The runes on the white bone thorn lit up and slowly rose into the sky. Go! Yin Joga pointed at the broken table. The white bone thorn turned into a stream of light and pierced through, leaving a round hole on the wooden table. Although its power was far inferior to the lightning snake illusionary whip, it was still passable. Yin Joga controlled the white bone thorn to fly up and down the house a few times. Only when the yin qi in her body was completely exhausted did she stop and continue to cultivate. After Yin Joga finished the half bottle of yin qi pills, her outer sex yin qi finally reached the first level of qi refinement. She could be considered to have successfully entered the ranks of cultivators. Under Zishang's urging, Yin Joga went to the main peak's technique inheritance pavilion to ask about the puppet technique. The main peak was bustling with people coming and going. The technique inheritance pavilion was built in a very imposing manner. The stone door was 10 meters tall. It was very spacious inside, but it was not open to disciples. There was only a small window in the middle. A gray elder sat behind the window. Chapter 284. Senior, I want to learn the puppet method. What are the conditions? Yin Joga asked the old man. The old man lifted his eyelids and glanced at Yin Joga, before replying indifferently. 300 contribution points. So many contribution points. Yin Joga was speechless. The Yin Corpse sect did not accept spirit jades or spirit stones. If one wanted to learn cultivation techniques, or exchange for pills, they all needed contribution points. Yin Joga and the other outer sect disciples could stay for half a month for free. But after the free period ended, they had to pay 30 contribution points every month. Otherwise they would be stripped of their disciple status and sent to the mass grave. These contribution points could be bought with spirit jades. 1 spirit jade for 1 contribution point. Although Yin Joga could take out 300 spirit jades, it was too conspicuous. No disciple would do it. Other than buying with spirit jades, they could also do sect missions to exchange for it. This was more in line with the needs of the disciples, and it was also a mutually beneficial thing for the sect. Yin Joga did not have contribution points, so she could only earn it. She thanked the gray-robed old man and went to the mission hall. The mission hall was bigger than the technique teaching pavilion. It was filled with outer sect disciples, each choosing a mission. Yin Joga had good eyesight. She could clearly see the situation inside. The mission hall had a total of 13 pillars, on top of which were densely packed mission lists. From left to right, it was low-level, middle-level, and high-level missions. The lowest-level missions were helping to clean the graveyard, picking up bones to wash bones, patrolling. These were all manual labor, and the rewards were very low. The middle-level missions had high rewards, but the requirements were very high, and there was a certain amount of risk. The high-level missions required one to be at refining rank 5. With Yin Joga's current cultivation, she could not even go take a look. Yin Joga walked around the mission hall. She found that it was not easy to earn 30 contribution points every month. Those jobs that were not life-threatening were very tedious. After completing them, there was no time to cultivate. Even if one could survive in the outer sect, if one's cultivation did not improve, one would only be bullied. The missions with high rewards were also dangerous. For example, there was a middle-level mission to kill Yin ghosts to collect Yin Qi. Each bottle of Yin Qi could be exchanged for 10 contribution points. If one's cultivation was not enough, they could only become food for the Yin ghosts. How about this mission? Yin Joga wanted to take the mission to kill Yin ghosts. Whether it was refining pills or refining corpses, the Yin Corpse sect required a large amount of Yin energy. Therefore, this task of killing Yin ghosts and collecting Yin Qi was available every day, and it was also a task that outer disciples liked to do. It's too conspicuous for you to accept this mission right after advancing. Start with the lowest level mission and advance step by step. Zishang wanted to let Yin Joga familiarize himself with the Yin corpse sex situation. Alright, Yin Joga accepted all the low-level quests on the quest list. Every day after she finished practicing, she would clean up the graveyard, pick up the bones, mop the ground, and clean the whole mountain. Although it was exhausting, he quickly familiarized himself with the Yin corpse sex situation. She realized that not all of these outer sect disciples were evil people. The reason why they joined the Yin corpse sect was because they grew up in the territory of the devil sect. It couldn't be helped. You grew up in the territory of the demon sect. If you ran to a righteous sect, they wouldn't dare to put you in an important position. Yin Joga finally understood why Zishang had asked him to change his name and gender to go to the Debi Mountains. Only by removing all traces of the past could he integrate into the Yin corpse sect. Yin Joga spent a month to finish all the low-level quests and finally earned 300 contribution points. She also successfully entered the second layer of Qi condensation. She once again went to the Technique Inheritance Pavilion and used contribution points to exchange for a puppet cultivation method. Then, she returned to the cottage with Zishang and prepared to refine the profound Yin white bone monkey. The most important part of refining the profound Yin white bone monkey was to create a talisman liquid with spiritual power. This talisman liquid required many materials, among which the corpse star grass was the most important. Fortunately, Yin Joga had prepared a large amount of Yin attribute materials before coming to the Yin corpse sect, including the corpse star grass. Zishang crushed the corpse star grass and added Yin Joga's blood essence to create a solvent. Then, he dipped his index finger in the talisman liquid and drew a talisman on the white bone monkey. The red blood talisman quickly seeped into the white bones, and the originally lifeless skeleton gained a trace of spiritual energy. When the puppet was about to be refined, Zishang suddenly stopped and drew a formation on the ground. "What are you doing?" Although Yin Joga wasn't familiar with formations, she could tell that Zishang was drawing a soul-spiking formation. "This broken house is too simple. I'm afraid that after the white bone monkey is formed, its spiritual energy will leak out and be discovered." Zishang replied without raising his head. "Is it that exaggerated?" Yin Joga didn't think much of it. Wasn't it just a puppet? Could it be refined into a divine weapon? After Zishang finished drawing the formation, he continued to draw talismans for the profound Yin white bone monkey. When he finished drawing the last blood talisman, a cold wind suddenly blew in the house. The surrounding tables, chairs, and beds were all blown to pieces. Yin Joga's hair danced wildly, and her clothes were blown up by the cold wind. Fortunately, the cold wind only blew within the circle that Zishang had drawn. If it had blown to the roof, the tiles on it would have been blown away. As the cold wind blew, the monkey's skull in the circle suddenly emitted 2 bean-sized flames. Following that, a cracking sound could be heard. The small white bone monkey stood up from the ground. Its head was big, and its body was small, just like a bean sprout. The huge head looked left and right, and finally came in front of Yin Joga, and stared at her blankly. The white bone monkey's red eyes looked quite horrifying. Crack, crack. The small white bone monkey's mouth moved up and down, as if it was talking to Yin Joga. Unfortunately, Yin Joga only understood the beast language, and not the ghost language. Although she didn't understand the ghost language, she could vaguely feel that this small white bone monkey was begging her to protect it. TSK, it really became a spirit. Right now your spiritual sense is too weak, and you still can't control it well. But once you cultivate it, there won't be a problem. Zishang's white jade-like forehead was dripping with sweat, and his handsome face had a trace of exhaustion. It could be seen that refining this profound Yin white bone monkey was not easy. "Are you all right?" Yin Joga took out a handkerchief to wipe Zishang's sweat. "I'm fine." Zishang shook his head and pointed at the profound Yin white bone monkey. "Keep it first. There's no place to put it." Although this white bone monkey was small, her broken storage bag couldn't fit it. "Just let it disperse." Zishang ordered the white bone monkey, "Disperse." The profound Yin white bone monkey automatically disintegrated, turning into a pile of bones that were neatly stacked. A small bag was enough to keep it. It's really convenient. Yin Joga stuffed the small bag into her storage bag. It could be said to be perfect. Since you've already advanced, then go and accept the mission to kill the Yin ghost. Zishang felt that Yin Jioge was already mature enough. It was time to train. Building a car behind closed doors was not a solution. One had to learn and use it, turning the Yin skill into combat power. Most importantly, this Yin Qi was of great use to them. Chapter 285. Alone. With Yin Jioge's current cultivation level, it would be dangerous for her to go to the Yin Qi graveyard alone. It's fine. Just bring the Xian Yin white bone monkey with you. Zishang would not let Yin Jioge take the risk. Will the little monkey do? The white bone monkey's arms and legs were as thin as reeds. It would be lucky if the Yin ghosts did not break them apart. Don't underestimate it. It's much more powerful than you. How could a puppet that he had personally refined be weak? I hope so. Since Zishang had said so, Yin Jioge obediently went to the mission hall to accept the mission to kill the Yin ghosts. She did not expect that the disciple on duty at the mission hall today would be Yin Jioge's neighbor, little fatty Jean Lin. Yin Jioge looked at little fatty again. To be on duty at the mission hall, one must have a backer or connections. This little fatty was not simple. Senior Yin Jio, have you found a team to kill the Yin ghosts? Do you want me to introduce you to a reliable team? Little fatty took Yin Jioge's mission list and asked enthusiastically. No need. Yin Jioge coldly refused. Little fatty was not angry. He helped her register her information and gave her the token to enter the Yin ghost graveyard. He asked, do you want to rent or buy the Yin Qi bottle? How much does it cost to rent, and how much does it cost to buy? Yin Jioge knew that Yin Qi bottles were needed to kill the Yin ghosts, but she did not know much about the market. A rank 1 Yin Qi bottle can hold 100 Yin ghosts. It costs 1 contribution point for 3 days to rent. It costs 50 contribution points for 1. If you can afford it, it's better to buy 1. Little fatty explained carefully. I'll buy 1. Yin Jioge's next mission was to kill the Yin ghosts. It was indeed better to buy 1. Then take it. After little fatty took 50 contribution points from Yin Jioge's token, he swiftly packed a Yin Qi bottle and gave it 2 death talismans. This is an internal benefit. Next time, you can come to me when you want to buy something. You'll get a discount. Little fatty said with a smile. Yin Jioge did not say anything. She took the items and left. The Yin Qi bottle was pure white. It was about the same size as the vases used to arrange flowers. The only difference was that the bottle had a red Yin gathering and spirit rune engraved on it. It's so expensive to inscribe a rune. If I had known, I would have asked you to make one for me, Yin Jioge muttered. However, she was only joking. It would be too eye-catching if she really took out a bottle of Yin energy that she had made herself. I told you to learn talisman patterns, but you refused. Zishang took the opportunity to lecture him. I'm so tired from training every day. How could I learn so much? Yin Jioge was not very talented when it came to runes. She looked at the wavy lines that resembled tadpoles and naturally lost interest in them. Zishang couldn't do anything about it. Talent was a mysterious thing. Before Yin Jioge was enlightened, it would be very difficult for her to learn runes. He did not want to force her. He would take it one step at a time. The entrance to the Yin energy graveyard was a pair of large stone doors that opened every hour. Yin Jioge thought that she had arrived very early. She did not expect that there were already 8 disciples standing at the door. It looked like they were in a group. Although they were all dressed in gray, these outer sect disciples were obviously veterans. The leader was a tall, skinny man with triangular eyes and broom-like eyebrows. He was at the 3rd level of the Qi refining stage, and was obviously not a good person. When he saw Yin Jioge, broom-like eyebrows looked her up and down. He laughed contemptuously and said, "Young man, you've got guts. You're only at the 2nd level of the Qi refining stage, but you dare to come to the Yin Qi graveyard alone?" Yin Jioge did not even look at him. She stood in a corner and waited for the Yin Qi graveyard to open. "Young man, you're really something." Broom-like eyebrows was about to come over to pick a fight with Yin Jioge when another group of disciples appeared in the distance. There were a total of 13 of them. The Lu sisters were among them. The 2 sisters had already advanced to the 2nd level of the Qi refining stage. Although they were also wearing gray robes, they had altered the waists, collars, and cuffs of their robes, making their bodies look even more voluptuous. The two sisters were beautiful and knew how to act coquettishly. It was no wonder that they were able to get close to the senior disciples so quickly. When Broom-like Eyebrows saw this group of people, his face immediately darkened. He did not bother to look for trouble with Yin Jyoga anymore. Broom-like Eyebrows Chun, you've brought your brothers here again. The leader of this group was a short man who looked like Tu Xingsuan. He had a big face, small eyes, and thick lips. He was extremely ugly. Although this short man was ugly, he was already at the 4th level of the Qi refining stage. He had the highest cultivation level among the two groups of people. Broom-like Eyebrows Chun ignored the short man and whistled at the Lu sisters. He smiled lecherously and said, "Sister, Shorty Chio is only good-looking, but he's useless. I'm afraid that he won't be able to satisfy you. Why don't you join us? I guarantee that you'll have a good time." When the Lu sisters were teased, they looked embarrassed, aggrieved, and uneasy. Shorty Chio's heart ached when he saw this. He immediately pointed at Broom-like Eyebrows Chun and shouted, "Looks like I didn't teach you a lesson last time. You still want to talk dirty? Do you think I won't kill you? I'm talking to the sisters. Why are you in such a hurry? You haven't gotten your hands on the sisters yet, right? Otherwise, why would you bring them here to show off?" Broom-like Eyebrows Chun chuckled. Broom-like Eyebrows Chun's words stabbed right into Shorty Chio's heart. He had been trying to please the sisters recently, but he had not made any progress other than touching their hands. He wanted to force himself on them, but the sisters were smarter. He had not found the opportunity to do so yet. This time, the sisters had asked him to help them with the mission to kill the Yin ghosts. They had also promised to reward him after the mission was completed. Hence, he had ignored the objections of his brothers and forced the sisters into the group. The Lu sisters noticed that Shorty Chio's expression was not good. They turned around and saw Yun Jyoga standing in the corner. Lu Tianer's eyes lit up. She shouted, "Isn't this Senior Yun Jio?" "Senior Yun Jio. The Yin ghosts in the Yin Qi graveyard appear in groups. It's too dangerous for you to go in alone. Why don't you team up with us?" Lu Mei-er immediately said with concern. "That's right." Lu Tianer pulled on Shorty Chio and said coquettishly, "Senior Chio, can you help Senior Yun Jio?" Shorty Chio was put in a difficult position. He did not dare to agree. The Yin Qi graveyard was filled with danger. His subordinates were already unhappy that he had brought 2 new girls along to take advantage of the situation. If he brought another rookie with him, he would only be a burden to the group. At that moment, the Yin Qi graveyard creaked. 2 gigantic stone doors opened, and a cold and gloomy aura drifted out. Yin Jyoga acted as if she had not heard the Lu sisters' invitation. She walked straight in with the token in her hand. Shorty Chio heaved a sigh of relief. He smiled and said, "This guy really doesn't know how to appreciate our kindness. Let's not bother with him. Let's go." "Yes," the Lu sisters replied sweetly. They then followed Shorty Chio and the others into the graveyard. Tisk! Broom-like Eyebrows Chun snorted coldly and followed them in. Chapter 286. Yun Jyoga stood in a small open space, looking at the Yin Qi cemetery in the distance, only to see a vast expanse of gray, faintly seeing withered trees everywhere, countless Yin ghosts hiding behind the withered branches, eerily staring at the entrance of the cemetery. These Yin ghosts do not have their own consciousness, only have an instinctive desire for the vitality of living people. As long as they smell the vitality of living people, they will immediately swarm over like sharks smelling the scent of blood, devouring the person clean. Yin Corp's sect outer sect disciples enter the Yin Qi cemetery in a team of at least 8 people. 2 are responsible for defense, 3 are responsible for killing Yin ghosts, and 2 are responsible for collecting the Yin Qi of Yin ghosts after they die. For someone like Yun Jyoga to come in alone is no different from courting death. At this time, Yun Jyoga is still in the safe area. As long as she steps into the Yin Qi cemetery, countless Yin ghosts will instantly swarm over, until she is drowned. Seeing that there is no one around, Yun Jyoga released the profound Yin white bone monkey puppet. The scattered white bones formed the shape of a small monkey. The white bone monkey's soul fire is ignited. It opened its mouth and spat out a gray light towards Yunjioga. Yunjioga carefully walked into the Inchi cemetery, only to find that the In ghosts did not see her, as if they are blind. What's going on? Yunjioga asked Zishang in surprise. This profound In white bone monkey is formed from the In chi of heaven and earth. Its aura can cover up your living aura. That is why he said that this white bone monkey is a good helper for cultivating demonic techniques. So awesome! Yunjioga's eyes lit up, and immediately ordered the white bone monkey, "Go kill them all." After saying that, he took out the In chi bottle, ready to enjoy the fruits of others' labor. The little skeleton monkey shook its big head, and took a step forward. Then, it opened its big mouth and sucked in with all its might. Those In ghosts screamed as they were pulled into its mouth, and then disappeared. Yunjioga holding the In chi bottle was dumbfounded. This sovereign said it is very powerful. Zishang was still proud at the side. Powerful my ass. Where is the little helper? It ate all the In ghosts. What do I use to exchange for contribution points? Yunjioga said angrily. There's nothing I can do about it. This In energy is the food of the profound In white skeleton monkey. If it doesn't eat, it will be extremely hungry. If you want In energy, you can only work hard. Zishang shrugged, and had a helpless expression. In fact, he had deliberately refined it like this. If Yunjioga could obtain In chi so easily, there would be no need to talk about cultivation. Yunjioga could only take out the corpse control bell, to control the bone spurs to kill the evil ghosts, when he saw the little white skeleton monkey eating happily. In the beginning, she was not very proficient, but after the time it took for an incense stick to burn, she was able to control the white bone spike very nimbly, killing with one strike. Yunjioga killed more than 10 In ghosts, and collected them all in the In chi bottle. Rest for a while. Zishang reminded Yunjioga when he saw that the spiritual power in his body was almost depleted. Although Yunjioga could use the aura of the mysterious In white skeleton monkey to avoid the eyes and ears of low-level In ghosts, it was not a wise move to exhaust his spiritual power. Well, there aren't many In ghosts here. Let's go somewhere else. Yunjioga put away the In chi bottle, and planned to investigate the environment of the In chi cemetery. She could only go so smoothly with the help of the mysterious In white skeleton monkey, but it was not possible to do this every time. Understanding the situation here would give her one more way out. Okay. Zishang held Yunjioga's hand and strolled in the gloomy cemetery. Behind the two of them was a short mysterious In white skeleton monkey. It was indescribably strange. Help! At this time, a panicked cry for help and a strange ghost howl came from the depths of the fog. It's a rank 2 In ghost. Zishang could tell the level of the ghost howl. This is still the outer area. How can there be a rank 2 In ghost? Yunjioga suddenly felt strange. A rank 2 In ghost in the cemetery was equivalent to a level 5 chi training. It only appeared in the inner area. The token of the outer disciples could only move around the outer area of the In chi cemetery. They could not enter the inner dangerous area. Probably some unlucky ghost encountered it. Zishang replied coldly. Let's go take a look. Yunjioga sneakily walked over, then secretly squatted behind a withered tree and peeked. He saw that the rank 2 In ghost soul body was dense. It was dark gray. Its head vaguely had a hideous shape. Its speed was extremely fast. It was impossible to guard against. Other than this rank 2 In ghost, there were many rank 1 In ghosts gathered around. They were obviously under its control. High-level In ghosts had control over low-level In ghosts. The originally scattered and disorderly In ghosts were now stopped and attacked. It was also very difficult to deal with. The ones being attacked by the rank 2 In ghost were Shorty Chio's group. Before, there were 10 of them, but now there were only 3. It was unknown if they were killed by the In ghost, or if they were separated when escaping. Shorty Chio's group was followed by a white skeleton puppet. Unfortunately, their puppet's movements were very stiff. It was not a match for the rank 2 In ghost. Old Chio, we can't, this In ghost is too difficult to deal with. A skinny man shouted. Then let's retreat. Old Chio shouted. If we retreat like this, They will definitely split us up. We need someone to be the bait. The skinny man said. Needless to say, this bait definitely had no way out. When Yin Jioga heard this, he immediately frowned. These evil cultivators were indeed different. They were willing to sacrifice their companions openly. Looking at their group, the injured disciple's white skeleton puppet was tightly protecting him. It did not look like it was willing to die. The only ones who did not have a white skeleton puppet protecting them were the Lu sisters. The sisters shook the corpse control bell, each controlling a white bone spike to attack the low-level Yin ghost. The two of them cooperated very well, killing many low-level Yin ghosts. Hearing the conversation between Shorty Chio and the others, they roughly knew that the situation was not right. They gradually pulled away from Shorty Chio's group. Little beauty, the situation is special now. I can only wrong you. Although Shorty Chio was lustful, he knew that if he protected the two little beauties at this time, his subordinates would definitely rebel against him. He could find beauties at any time, but he could not lose his position as the boss. Big brother Chio, what are you talking about? Little sister is more than happy to be able to serve everyone. Lu Mei Er did not seem to understand that Shorty Chio wanted to send the sisters to their deaths. She still smiled and replied, Little beauty is really good. If it wasn't because this rank 2 Yin ghost is too hard to deal with, Big brother would also be reluctant to leave you. Shorty Chio felt that it was a pity. Originally, he thought that after completing today's mission, he could bring them back to enjoy the blessings of beauties. If he knew it would be like this, he would have raped the two sisters before coming out. That's right, little sister would also be reluctant to leave you guys. Lu Mei Er sighed. A mocking smile appeared on her beautiful face. Shorty Chio and the others have been cursed by the Lu sisters. Zishang suddenly whispered into Yin Jioga's ear. Chapter 287. Where did they curse Shorty Chio? Yin Jioga found it troublesome not being able to open her spirit eye. It was like being blind. See for yourself. A gray light flashed from Zishang's finger and landed on Yin Jioga's forehead. The space between her eyebrows heated up, and her vision turned gray. The Yin ghost was dark gray, while the Lu sisters were faint yellow. That was the color of earth spirit roots. Shorty Chio and the other two all had black water spirit roots. But strangely, there was a red paper doll stuck on their backs. Lu Tian'er, who had been silent, was secretly forming seals to control the movements of the red paper dolls. The red paper doll raised its arm and Shorty Chio and the other two rushed towards the rank 2 Yin ghost. Lu Tian'er took the chance to shout, Go! The two sisters immediately kept their bone spikes and ran. Bitch, you dare to harm us. Shorty Chio was furious. He was trying to take advantage of them on the road, and the two sisters tried all kinds of ways to reject him. So they were trying to do something to him. Unfortunately, it was too late now. The rank 2 Yin ghost saw food and came to them automatically. There was no reason for it not to eat. It immediately led the Yin ghost forward and wrapped Shorty Chio and the other two into a gray ball. Then it opened its gray mouth and wrapped Shorty Chio's head. Shorty Chio and the other two lost their life force quickly, and they quickly turned into dried corpses that turned into dust. This was the cruelty of Yin corpse sect. There were countless of disciples dying here every day. After the rank 2 Yin ghost swallowed Shorty Chio and the other two, it continued to chase after the Lu sisters. Yin Jioga followed without hesitation. She planned to wait for the rank 2 Yin ghost to get rid of the Lu sisters before trying to spar with the rank 2 Yin ghost to see how good she was. The Lu sisters did not say a word and ran for their lives. Originally they cursed Shorty Chio because they wanted to hypnotize him when he was begging for sex. They did not expect to encounter the attack of the rank 2 Yin ghost. Sister, the rank 2 Yin ghost is catching up. Lu Tian'er quickly took out her white bone spike. She did not expect Shorty Chio and the other two to be so useless that they could not even stop a rank 2 Yin ghost. Fight! Lu Mei Er saw that she could not escape, so she stopped and fought alongside her sister. The corpse-controlling bell let out a ringing sound. 2 white bone spikes flew out of the inventory bag. The two sisters could only control 1 white bone spike, each in front of Shorty Chio earlier. Now they could control 2 white bone spikes each. It was obvious that they had hidden their strength. 4 white bone spikes simultaneously pierced towards the level 2 Een ghost. The level 2 Een ghost was very cunning. It hid behind the low-level Een ghost and did not confront the two sisters head-on. I didn't expect these two sisters to be so loyal. Yun Joga had originally thought that the sisters would flee for their lives in the face of disaster. He never expected that they would fight side by side. At that moment, Zishang suddenly said to Yun Joga, "There's something strange about these two sisters." "What's strange? Why couldn't she see it? That Lu Tianer's physique is very special. You can't see it, because she used a secret technique to conceal it. This technique is not bad." As Zishang spoke, he suddenly flicked his finger and sent a stream of demonic power towards the level 2 Een ghost. The level 2 Een ghost was originally hiding behind the low-level Een ghosts, ready to attack at any time. Once it was stimulated by Zishang's demonic power, it immediately charged forward, as if it had been injected with chicken blood, instantly breaking through the sisters' blockade. "I'll cover you, you leave quickly." Lu Mei immediately blocked in front of Lu Tianer. The 2 white bone spikes shone brightly and turned into a meteor that pierced towards the level 2 Een ghost. Unexpectedly, the level 2 Een ghost did not dodge. After taking the 2 white bone spikes head-on, its gray arms suddenly expanded and hit Lu Meier's chest. Lu Meier staggered back 2 steps. A trace of blood seeped out from the corner of her mouth. Her face was instantly shrouded in a layer of gray qi. That was the symptom of cold Een qi entering her body. "Sister." Seeing that her sister was injured, Lu Tianer was so anxious that her eyes turned red. She gritted her teeth and took out a red paper doll from her storage bag. This red paper doll was very exquisitely cut. Its facial features were vivid and lifelike. It was simply a carving of Lu Tianer. Lu Tianer slapped the red paper doll onto her chest, and her eyes instantly turned red. Her hair stood up, and her nails grew like sharp black blades. The level 2 Een ghost was quite afraid of the transformed Lu Tianer. It immediately summoned a low-level Een ghost to block in front of it. Lu Tianer rushed forward. With a wave of her nails, she tore the low-level Een ghosts to pieces. Then she fought with the level 2 Een ghost. Unexpectedly, they were evenly matched. 9 Yudao body. Zishang's gray eyes flashed with surprise. This Lu Tianer's physique was completely out of his expectations. 9 Yudao body. Isn't that the most suitable body for refining Een corpses? Yun Joga was also shocked. This Lu Tianer herself has the 9 Yudao body. She actually came to the Een corpse sect to cultivate the Een corpse bone controlling art. Isn't this the same as turning herself into a living corpse? Does Lu Tianer not know that I have the 9 Yudao body? But looking at the way she cursed me, it was clear that she knew about my special physique. Moreover, she was using it very well. While Yun Joga was still in shock, Lu Tianer gradually fell into a disadvantage against the level 2 Een ghost. After Lu Meier suppressed the death energy in her body, she immediately shook the corpse-controlling bell and shouted, "Don't fight it head-on. Its weakness is its head." Under her sister's command, Lu Tianer's attacks immediately became more flexible. Every move she made was aimed at the head of the level 2 Een ghost. With Lu Meier's cooperation, the two sisters actually succeeded in taking out the soul crystal in the head of the level 2 Een ghost. Without the soul crystal, the level 2 Een ghost immediately turned into a cloud of dense Een qi. Lu Meier controlled the Een qi bottle, and the cloud of Een qi flew into the bottle. Lu Meier put away the Een qi bottle and took out 2 gray death qi talismans. This death qi talisman could temporarily isolate the body's vitality. However, the time was very short. It was not enough time to leave the Een qi cemetery, so it was not very effective. Lu Meier put the Een qi talisman on herself and Lu Tianer. Then she pulled off the red paper man that had already lost its luster from Lu Tianer's chest. Lu Tianer's red eyes returned to their original state, and her hair that was standing on end also fell down. She weakly lay on the ground and pitifully shouted to Lu Meier, "Sister." "Pa." Lu Meier unexpectedly slapped her and fiercely scolded. "How many times have I told you? You're not allowed to use this trick again. Do you want to die? If you want to die, then say it earlier. Why did I have to suffer that old man's torture for you?" While scolding her, Lu Mei also couldn't help but cry. She knew that her sister wanted to save her. She could only blame herself for not having the ability to protect her sister. Sister, don't cry, I was wrong. Lu Tianer's eyes were also red. She reached out her hand to wipe away Lu Mei's tears. Get up. Lu Mei quickly stopped crying. She said with red eyes, go back and cultivate. She wanted to become strong. Strong enough to trample on the people that bullied her sisters. Strong enough to kill that old monster. And then go back to her uncle's family for revenge. At that time, she would definitely refine them into corpses. She would torture them day and night. She would make them suffer 1,000 times over. Chapter 288. Yin Jioge silently watched as the two sisters supported each other as they left. He felt that their story was very tragic. This Lu Tianer's 9 Hell Dao body is not bad. If it is refined into a Yin corpse, its power will double. Do you want to consider it? Zishang said. This 1,000-year-old corpse was after all a fake. It was not as useful to Yin Jioge as the real thing. You've only joined the Yin corpse sect for a few days. And you really think that you're an evil cultivator? Yin Jioge rolled his eyes at Zishang. She came here to save her life, not to refine Yin corpses. With such a good physique, don't you think it's a pity to leave it to the Yin corpse sect? Zishang felt that it would be a waste not to take it. Of course we can't leave it to them. Yin Jioge still viewed the Yin corpse sect as an enemy. Of course, he couldn't do something like this that would increase the enemy's strength. But for her to refine Lu Tianer into a Yin corpse, just thinking about it made her feel ashamed. Since you don't want Lu Tianer, you might as well kill her. It was normal for Zishang to destroy what he couldn't obtain. What you are doing is no different from declaring your position. Yin Jioge knew that Zishang was not a good demon, but he did not expect him to be so evil. If he killed someone because of his own selfishness, sooner or later, he would become a devil who would not recognize his own family. You don't want it, but you don't want to give it to others. What do you want? Zishang felt that Yin Jioge was being unreasonable. The sisters are hiding very well now. If they are really exposed, we'll talk about it when the time comes. Yin Jioge decided to take one step at a time. If the Lu sisters' identities were really exposed, it wouldn't be too late for her to make a decision at that time. Looking at the two sisters, they were not willing to be someone else's Yin corpses. Yin Jioge strolled around the Yin energy cemetery for a while, then left with the Yin energy bottle. She handed over a bottle of Yin energy in exchange for 100 contribution points, which she used to pay half a month's rent. She did not immediately exchange the remaining Yin Qi for contribution points. Instead, she took it back to her bungalow and prepared to concoct pills. The Yin Qi pills provided by the Yin corpse sect were too low level. The absorption effect was very poor. As an alchemist, she could not tolerate herself taking such inferior pills for a long time. So she intended to refine her own Yin Qi pill. Right now, she was already at the 2nd level of Qi refining and could already operate the alchemy furnace. If he used it carefully, he could still refine a batch of Yin energy pills. Yin Jioge took out the small bronze cauldron and asked Zishang to help him set up an array to conceal his spiritual power. Then he hid in the house and began to refine pills. She first asked Zishang to help her refine the Yin Qi into pure Yin energy. The entire bottle was filled to the brim with Yin Qi, but in the end, it was only a small cup of pure Yin Qi. Then, she took out the Yin spirit grass that she had collected before and began to process it. The Yin spirit grass looked like a woman's hair. It was thin and soft. After burning it into ashes and mixing it with pure Yin spirit grass, it could be placed into the alchemy furnace to be refined. The white bone fire in Yin Jioge's dantian had been squeezed into a corner by the 9-stage bone shatterer's poison, so he could only use his spiritual power to draw out a bit of it to make his alchemic fire. Fortunately, the time needed to refine the Yin Qi Dan was very short, and her spiritual power was still enough to use. However, refining one furnace of Yin Qi Dan was also very tiring for her. This furnace produced more than 300 Yin energy pills, and the quality was also high, enough for her to eat for a long time. After Yin Jioge refined the Yin energy pill, He went to the mission hall to accept the mission of killing Een ghosts. Then, he bought a Een energy bottle that could absorb 500 Een ghosts, and went to the Een energy cemetery to kill Een ghosts. This time, her killing was very smooth. After a day, the 2 Een energy bottles were filled to the brim. When he came back at night, he took a look at the Lu sisters' house. Their door was still closed. They were probably still cultivating. Senior brother Yunjio, you're back. It seems that today's harvest is not bad. Little Fatty appeared at the door with a smile. Yunjioga looked at him indifferently. Was he going to enter the house? Senior brother Yunjio, I have the latest news about the Een Corpse sect. Do you want to buy some information? Little Fatty said quickly. Buy information? Yunjioga stopped and looked at Little Fatty from head to toe. What information do you have to buy? Anything you want to hear. Little Fatty saw that he had a plan and immediately became spirited. He said eloquently, including the strategies of various missions, the various movements of the sect, the preferences of the various elders, the fastest way to enter the inner sect, the cultivation abilities of the senior brothers and sisters. Hearing this, Yunjuga's heart suddenly moved. She had always wanted to find out about Su Junqing, Yi Yunji, Si Yue, and the demon corpse. Maybe she could really get the information she wanted from this Little Fatty. However, she did not ask rashly. Instead, she asked, how do I know if your information is reliable or not? You don't have to worry about this. I have an uncle who is the steward of the inner sect. He has worked here for more than 50 years. There is nothing he doesn't know, Little Fatty said quickly. Your uncle is the steward of the inner sect. Why didn't you come in with the referral token? The steward of the inner sect was much higher than Een Shirley, the steward of the outer sect. If Little Fatty wanted to come in, he could come in as he pleased. I wanted to see if there were any capable people coming to the Een Corpse sect this year, so I went to participate in the preliminary selection. You don't say. There were a few good seedlings in this preliminary selection. I heard that there was a male disciple with a natural dark spirit root. He was directly taken in as a disciple by the sect master. Little Fatty said non-stop. This Little Fatty really loved to collect gossip. Yunjioga trusted him a little more in her heart. She asked, if that's the case, then I'll buy some information from you. Okay, but should we go somewhere else to discuss business? Little Fatty said. People in their line of work were still very concerned about privacy. Come in. Yunjioga opened the door and invited Little Fatty in. Little Fatty secretly looked around the room and found that there were no signs of anything being added. Usually, after the outer sect disciples were assigned a residence, they would add some things to make their living more comfortable. It seemed that this Yunjio was a cultivation maniac. Yunjioga did not care about Little Fatty's gaze. He directly asked, I want to ask about the Lu sisters next door. Do you sell them here? Senior brother Yunjio, you have found the right person. I have the Lu sisters' measurements, their daily schedule, and their hobbies. It's only 10 contribution points. Little Fatty's expression immediately became ambiguous. He revealed an expression that said, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not interested in these things. I want to know their background. The more detailed the better, Yunjioga said coldly. Little Fatty was stunned. His expression suddenly became serious. He said, the Lu sisters' background is not ordinary. It can be said to be our sect's secret. If you want to know, you need at least 500 contribution points. 500 contribution points? Yunjioga frowned. This was even more expensive than the puppet cultivation method. Could it be that Little Fatty knew that the two sisters had special constitutions, so he deliberately charged such a high price? Chapter 289. That's right. Little Fatty nodded solemnly, then chuckled. Actually, senior brother Yunjio doesn't have to do this. As long as you figure out the Lu sisters' hobbies, when the time comes, you can capture them as well. Wouldn't it be easy to find out their background? Yunjioga said expressionlessly. You better pray that it's worth 500 contribution points. Otherwise, don't blame me for falling out with you. You really want to buy it? Little Fatty was shocked. The Lu sisters' background was indeed a secret, which was why he offered such a high price. Previously, many people had asked him about it, but once they heard the price, they were all scared away. Yes, Yun Jioga took out the huge inchi bottle and threw it to little Fatty. This inchi should be enough for 500 contribution points. Originally, she wanted to use the inchi to exchange for a bone-controlling technique, but since she found out about the Lu sisters' uniqueness, she felt that there was a need to understand their background. Little Fatty took the inchi bottle and checked it. Indeed, it was worth 500 contribution points. Since there was money to be paid, even the most confidential information could be revealed. Don't be fooled by the Lu sisters' weak appearance, they actually have a great background. Little Fatty stuttered and told him about the Lu sisters' background. It turned out that the two sisters came from the Lu family in the Black Fiend Sex territory. The Lu family had 2 foundation establishment cultivators overseeing it, and its power was one of the top in the area. Although the sisters' father was only at the great perfection of chi refinement, because he was the clan leader, and the sisters' cultivation talent was outstanding, they were nurtured by the clan. Unfortunately, good times didn't last long. Their father died during a mission. After their uncle became the new clan leader, the sisters' status was not as good as before. The clan elders wanted them to take good care of them. When the time came, they would marry into other clans, which would be a great help. This was the usual style of large clans. As the main family's daughter, the two sisters would not marry into poor families. However, their uncle was not a good person. He received a bribe from an evil cultivator and actually secretly sent the two sisters out to be human cauldrons. The two sisters suffered greatly at the hands of that evil cultivator, and after escaping, they joined the Een Corpse sect. After little Fatty finished speaking, he poured a cup of tea to moisten his throat. That's it. Yun Juga raised his eyebrows. What about the special physique? Senior brother Yun Jio, the Lu sisters are fugitives. If their identities are leaked, they won't have a good ending. Isn't that confidential enough? Little Fatty's eyes widened. No matter who it was, they could use this secret to do whatever they wanted to the Lu sisters, ensuring that they wouldn't dare to make a sound. It was only because he saw that Yun Jio did not seem like a lustful person that he sold this secret to her. Where did you get this secret? Well, she was surprised that the Lu sisters were fugitives. Our Een Corpse sect seems to accept disciples very casually, but we actually check very strictly. However, things like secrets should only be kept between you and me. It won't do either of us any good if we reveal it. Little Fatty's face was smiling, but his words carried a hint of threat. If he dared to sell such important information, he must have a backer. Yun Jioga naturally wouldn't tell anyone about the Lu sisters' past. She was more curious about the Een Corpse sect's attitude. Since they know that the Lu sisters are fugitives, why did they still accept them? Aren't they afraid of trouble? The Lu family and that evil cultivator old monster aren't anything special. If he dares to come here to take people, then he will have to pay the corresponding price. To put it bluntly, the Een Corpse sect was doing business without capital and wanted to extort money from the Lu family and the evil cultivator old monster. Then do you know how the Lu sisters escaped from the evil hands of that old monster? Yun Juga was still quite curious about this. I heard that when the old monster was plucking them, they took the opportunity to cut his lower part and escaped. Little Fatty's face revealed a sour expression. Even a golden core ancestor couldn't take a cut on his lower part. These two sisters were indeed fierce. Although Yun Jioga didn't have any asterisk, she could imagine that the pain must be unbearable. Seeing that senior brother Yun Jio is so generous, I'll give you another piece of information. Little Fatty lowered his voice and said mysteriously, I heard that senior brother Su Junqing is very interested in this pair of sisters. If you like them, you have to keep an eye on them, or else you'll get nothing. Su Junqing? Yun Jioga narrowed her eyes. This name was really detestable, but since Little Fatty mentioned it, she also took the opportunity to ask, do you know the origin of this senior brother Su Junqing? Of course, 50 contribution points. Little Fatty stretched out a palm. Although this price was cheaper than the Lu sisters, Yin Jioga didn't even have a single contribution point on hand, nor did she have any yin chi bottles to exchange. She thought about it and asked little Fatty, "Do you want to exchange yin chi pills?" In the yin corpse sect, one yin chi pill could be exchanged for one contribution point. "You still have yin chi pills?" Little Fatty was quite surprised. Usually, new disciples would take yin chi pills to break through to the first level of chi refinement. "I know an alchemist, and I got some good yin chi pills from him." Yin Jioga took out a small jade bottle. "Let me have a look." Little Fatty took Yin Jioga's yin chi pill and smelled it. His eyes immediately lit up. "This yin chi pill is not bad. One is worth 10 contribution points. Trade." Little Fatty's price was quite reasonable. Yin Jioga gave him 5 yin chi pills. Fatty rambled on, and on about Su Juanqing's background. A disciple of the bloodthirsty sect. He sold little girls in the Thunder Country's Shangjing. He even colluded with the Thunder Country's former crown prince, Dongfang Jiaming. He wanted to kill the Medicine Refining Valley's Grandmaster Dongfang. In the end, the Spiritualist Alliance surrounded the Blood Cloud Peak. Yin Jioga knew these things better than little Fatty. What she wanted to know was what happened after he entered the Yin Corpse sect. Little Fatty rambled on, quickly talking about Su Juanqing entering the Yin Corpse sect. After Su Juanqing entered the Yin Corpse sect with Si Yue, he didn't wait for Si Yue to return. He used his beauty to hook up with Elder Mo Hua, and successfully entered the Ink Flower Peak as an inner disciple. Following that, he successfully refined his own ink corpses. His strength greatly increased, and his status in the Ink Flower Peak also rose along with it. "Wait a minute, you said he refined his own ink corpse?" Yin Jioga frowned and asked, "Didn't they say that finding a suitable yin chi corpse is very difficult?" "He only joined the yin corpse sect for a few days. How did he find one?" "That's right, his luck was good. He brought back a female slave from the Blood Cloud Peak. He never thought she would have a yin spirit physique. She was very compatible with him, so he directly refined her." When little Fatty said this, he couldn't help secretly sighing at Su Juanqing's good luck. He went under the tutelage of Elder Mo Hua. If he went under the tutelage of another male elder, this yin spirit physique woman would not have been his turn. He already knew that a yin spirit physique woman would be compatible with anyone. When Yin Jioga heard the words Blood Cloud Peak female slave, her heart skipped a beat. She quickly asked, "Have you seen his yin corpse?" "My uncle has seen it. He said it was very beautiful. There was even a red mole between her eyebrows." Little Fatty's words made Yin Jioga's heart sink. Chapter 290. Yi Yunji. It had to be Yi Yunji. Yin Jioga's heart trembled. She never thought she would receive this kind of news. Zishang forcefully squeezed Yin Jioga's hand, and she came back to her senses. "Senior brother Yin, what's wrong?" Little Fatty's eyes kept looking at Yin Jioga's face. It was a good thing that Yin Jioga's poisoned face could not show any expression. Otherwise little Fatty would have seen it. "I just feel that this senior brother Su really has a good life." Yin Jioga suppressed her anger, and continued to ask, "You just said that senior brother Su Juanqing likes the Lu sisters. Does he have bad intentions towards them?" "I don't know about this, but it can't be anything good." It could be seen that little Fatty was also very disdainful of this Su Juanqing. "Then if you have any news about Su Juanqing doing anything to the Lu sisters, we can discuss the price," Yin Jioga logically said. "No problem." Little Fatty was very satisfied with another regular customer. Yin Jioga actually wanted to ask about Si Yue, but she was afraid that asking too much would make little Fatty suspicious, so she gave up. "If senior brother doesn't have anything else, then I'll leave first." Little Fatty was also very busy. After Yin Jioga sent little Fatty away, she closed the door and asked Zishang, "Do you think what he said was true? Did Su Juanqing really refine Yi Yunji into a yin corpse?" "What he said just now was the truth." Zishang was hidden on the side. He had already used his demon eye to confirm that little Fatty's news was true. That bastard Su Juanqing. It was not enough to harm Yi Yunji like that. He even refined her into a yin corpse. Not killing him was simply intolerable. Right now Su Junqing is in the limelight of the Yin Corp sect. It is too risky for you to find him for revenge. Zishang calmly said. He brought Yin Jioga to the Yin Corp sect to cultivate and expel the poison. Everything else had to be put aside. I know. Yin Jioga forcefully closed her eyes, and when she opened them, she had already calmed down. Cultivation was the most important thing. The most important thing for her right now was to go to the Yin Qi cemetery to collect Yin Qi and refine the Yin Qi pill. The further she went, the worse the Yin Qi pill would be. At that time, she would have to refine the Yin Qi pill. This Yin gathering pill required the 3 nether flower and Yin moths. The flowers and plants of 3 nether grew in the inner area of the Yin energy cemetery. It was not a problem for her to sneak in and pick them with the help of the skeleton monkey. However, the Yin moths resided in the Moth Valley of the Yin energy cemetery. One person could not catch many of them, so he had to cooperate with others. It seemed that he needed to change his cold and eccentric persona and find some reliable people to cooperate with. Fortunately, Yin Jioga was only at the 3rd level of Qi refinement. There was still some time before he could advance to the 5th level, so he could take his time to search. The next day, Yin Jioga went out to kill Yin ghosts again. When he returned to hand in his mission, he happened to see Lu Mei Er being entangled by Broom Chun and his gang. Little beauty, Shorty Chiu and his gang are all dead. You should hurry up and find someone to rely on. Otherwise, how are you going to maintain your pretty face? Broom Chun said with a smile. The disciples behind him had become much stronger. Shorty Chiu's subordinates had already switched sides and joined his camp. Among the outer sect disciples, whoever had the bigger fist had the right to speak. If it was a normal day, Lu Mei Er wouldn't mind entering Broom Chen's camp to flatter him. But she was not in the mood right now. Ever since her little sister used the 9 nether ghost body, her situation had not been good. The cold Yin energy in her body had gathered in her body and could not be released. She did not dare ask someone to see her, so she could only stay by her side day and night. Her entire person was extremely irritable. Now seeing Broom Chen's disgusting face, she was even more annoyed. She directly scolded him. Scram. Don't cause trouble in front of this ant. Smelly whore, don't be so shameless. Brothers, go and teach her how to be a person. Broom Chen flew into a rage out of humiliation. He called out to his subordinates to teach Lu Mei Er a lesson. The surrounding disciples silently walked away. No one wanted to get involved in this muddy water. Although the Yin Corp sect did not allow fighting on the surface, if the law enforcement team did not see it, no one would care. Lu Mei Er touched her storage bag, wanting to take out the corpse controlling bell and Broom Chen. At this time, a gentle voice rang out. What are you doing? Don't you know fighting is forbidden in the sect? Following that, Su Juanqing's handsome face appeared in front of everyone. Senior Su misunderstood. We were just chatting. Isn't that right, junior sister Lu? Broom Chen warned Lu Mei Er. This aunt has nothing to talk about with you. Lu Mei Er did not put him in her eyes at all. Broom Chen's face immediately became ugly. Didn't you hear junior sister Lu's words? Why aren't you scramming? Su Junqing was clearly standing on Lu Mei Er's side. Yes. Broom Chen was powerful among the outer disciples. But in front of Su Junqing, an inner disciple, he was nothing. He immediately tucked his tail between his legs. He brought his subordinates and left. Junior sister Lu, are you all right? Su Junqing gently looked at Lu Mei Er. Many thanks to Senior Su for helping me out. Lu Mei Er gratefully smiled. It's just a small matter. It's not worth mentioning. I heard your sister was injured. Is it serious? Do you want me to take a look? Su Junqing enthusiastically asked. Lu Mei Er's face paled when she heard this. She shook her head and refused. Many thanks for Senior Su's concern. My sister's injury is no longer a problem. I still have a task to hand in, so I won't disturb Senior Su. After saying that, she hurriedly walked into the task hall. Su Junqing looked at Lu Mei Er's slim figure. His eyes darkened, but he did not chase after her. Instead, he turned around and left. Chase after her. Zishang whispered into Yin Jioga's ear. He knew that Yin Jioga really wanted to kill Su Junqing. Although she could not do it now, she could still find out some information. Zishang's words were exactly what Yin Jioge wanted. She immediately concealed herself and followed behind Su Junqing. She did not expect Su Junqing to actually go find Broomchen. Looks like you've been doing well recently. Su Junqing's attitude was very casual. From his tone, it was clear that he was acquainted with Broomchen. Broomchen's face was filled with a flattering smile. He said in an obsequious manner, "Many thanks to Senior Su for helping me get rid of Shorty Chiu. Now the second peak is our territory. Don't worry, I will definitely help you get the Lu sisters. Do well, I won't mistreat you." Su Junqing nodded in satisfaction. His foundation in the corpse sect was too weak. He had always wanted to rope in his own forces. It just so happened that this Broom Chun was relying on him. He used a little trick to lure out a level 2 ghost from the inner circle to help him get rid of his opponent, Shorty Chiu. However, Broom Chun was still a bit useless. He kept saying that he would help him get the Lu sisters, but there was no progress until now. Although Su Junqing cultivated the bewitching art, it was not good to use it on the Lu sisters. Otherwise, those senior brothers and sisters who did not like him would definitely fiercely sue him. Although the corpse sect's rules were very loose, publicly murdering a fellow sect disciple would still be heavily punished. Of course, if you secretly murdered someone, it was another matter as long as no one found out. Chapter 291. Yin Jioge looked at this scene from afar. She really wanted to punch Su Junqing. This scumbag was really despicable and shameless. He would harm women wherever he went. Originally, Yin Jioge treated the Lu sisters as enemies. But now, she felt that they could be partners and fight against Su Junqing together. "My king, what do you think I should do to win over those two sisters?" Yin Jioge humbly asked Zishang for advice. She wasn't good at picking up girls. First, tell them that you already know their identity as female slaves and their 9 hell ghost body. Second, give them some benefits. Let them know that they will have meat to eat if they follow you. Finally, use them to fight against Su Junqing. Zishang explained. Isn't that too direct? Yin Jioge originally wanted to start off as friends with the Lu sisters. With their experience, it's better to be direct. Zishang had a look of "listen to me." Makes sense. Yin Jioge nodded. She didn't have the time or the mood to talk about feelings with the Lu sisters. When the time comes, you can show them your true self. They will know that you have no ill intentions towards them. Zishang was very confident in his acting as a 1,000-year-old corpse. Even 10 9 hell Taoist bodies couldn't compare. We'll talk about it when the time comes. Yin Jioge's attitude was very perfunctory. She felt that she was fine now. She didn't want to let Zishang out and cause trouble at all. It'll be too late. Zishang was very unhappy with Yin Jioge's attitude. Yin Jioge ignored him. She went back to the bungalow and knocked on the Lu sisters' door. "Who is it?" Lu Meier's voice sounded. "I, Yin Jioge, have something to discuss with you." Yin Jioge said calmly. "I don't have time right now. We'll talk tomorrow." Lu Meier's tone sounded very perfunctory. "No, I want to say it now. If you don't come out, don't blame me for barging in." Yin Jioge's attitude was very firm. The door opened very quickly. Lu Meier's beautiful face appeared from the gap. She said impatiently, "If you have something to say it quickly. I already know your background in your sister's body." Before Yin Jioge could finish, he was pulled into the room by Lu Meier. A white bone spear hung in the air and aimed straight at Yin Jioge's face. "You can't kill me." Yin Jioge's attitude was firm. Zishang was standing behind Lu Meier. Lu Meier's eyes were bloodshot, and her aura was exploding, as if she wanted to swallow Yin Jioge whole. "Sister, let him come in to talk." Lu Tianer's voice was heard along with the sound of banging. "Little sister." Lu Meier couldn't be bothered to confront Yin Jioge. She hurriedly entered the inner room. Yin Jioge followed her into the room and saw Lu Tianer lying on the floor, struggling to get up with the help of the bed. "You're already like this, why are you still struggling?" Lu Meier quickly went over to help Lu Tianer up. Lu Tianer's face was particularly ugly. Her face was ashen and her eyes were red. Her vitality was also very weak. This was the side effect of using the Netherworld Tao body. If he used it a few more times, Her vitality would be completely cut off, and she would become a living corpse. Put her on the bed. I have a way to suck out the cold energy from her body. After saying that, Yun Joga brought out the Thunderfire needle. I don't need your fake kindness. Lumiere glared at Yun Joga fiercely. It was obvious that she didn't believe her words. She's already like this. If we don't treat her, I'm afraid that the entire Yin Corpse sect will know about her body constitution. Yun Joga wasn't afraid that Lumiere wouldn't give in. Sister, let's just treat a dead horse like a living horse, Lu Tian'er said weakly. Only then did Lumiere carry Lu Tian'er back to the bed. Then, she guarded by the side and stared at Yun Joga like she was looking at a pervert. Yun Joga didn't mind. He first checked Lu Tian'er's pulse and found that it was so weak that he couldn't feel it. Her situation was very dangerous. Although she couldn't open her spiritual eye, she could still use other methods to check the situation in Lu Tian'er's body. Later, I will send a stream of Yin energy into your body to check. Don't resist, Yun Joga said solemnly. And Lu Tian'er nodded. Yun Joga then released a stream of Yin energy into her pulse. She carefully checked the situation of her meridians and memorized the blocked areas. After she finished checking, she took out the Thunderfire needle and started to use her acupuncture technique. Streaks of red light landed on Lu Tian'er's blocked meridians, leaving countless densely packed needle holes. Then countless grayish-black water droplets seeped out of the needle holes. Lu Tian'er's complexion started to improve. Her grayish-white lips also had some color. After Yun Joga kept the needle, he said, "Try to circulate a big cycle." Lu Tian'er immediately sat cross-legged and circulated her technique. The grayish-black water droplets turned into mist and surged out, covering her body. Lumiere was extremely nervous and quickly asked Yun Joga, "What's going on?" "Good situation," Yun Joga said indifferently. Lu Tian'er quickly finished circulating her technique. Her complexion instantly returned to normal. She looked like nothing had happened. "Brother Yunjio, you're so amazing." Lu Tian'er's eyes lit up as she looked at Yun Joga and asked, "Such amazing acupuncture technique. Where did you learn it from?" Yun Joga didn't answer Lu Tian'er's question. Instead, he said, "I came to find you guys to discuss a deal." "What deal?" Lumiere asked with a calm face. "Of course it's a deal that's beneficial to you. Don't worry. I'm not interested in refining you into Yin corpses. However, your cultivation is too low right now. Let's talk about it when your cultivation is higher." Although Yun Joga wanted to rope in the Lu sisters, he couldn't immediately tell them his goal. Otherwise, he would have nowhere to cry if they sold him out. Lumiere scrutinized Yun Joga. Unfortunately, his demonic face didn't have any expression, so she couldn't see anything. "Brother Yun Joga, you saved me. You're my benefactor. I'll do anything you want me to do," Lu Tian'er said naively. "Don't be silly. Be careful that you don't know you'll be sold." Lumiere scolded. "Brother Yun Joga isn't that kind of person." Lu Tian'er pouted and said with a bit of grievance. The sisters echoed each other and acted very well. Unfortunately, Yun Joga didn't fall for it. "Tomorrow, wait for me at the Inchi Cemetery's entrance." Yun Joga threw down these words and left. Lu Tian'er pretended to be in a daze as she watched Yun Joga leave. When he disappeared and the door closed, the expression in her eyes changed. She asked Lumiere seriously, "Sister, what do you think?" "I can't see through this Yun Joga. However, since he knows your secret, we can't let him live," Lumiere said ruthlessly. She didn't believe that Yun Joga wasn't interested in her sister's special constitution. Chapter 292. Then we have to prepare tomorrow. Lu Tian'er's current appearance did not have the slightest bit of cuteness. Her ruthlessness was not inferior to her sister. Zishang heard the conversation between the two sisters and immediately said to Yun Joga with schadenfreude, "Those two sisters are preparing to get rid of you in the Inchi Cemetery tomorrow. What are you laughing at? Aren't you afraid that your mouth will go crooked?" Yun Joga was extremely depressed. Did she really have to introduce Zishang, this beast? "Wash your neck and wait. This sovereign will not help you." Zishang smiled and patted Yun Joga's shoulder. "Little guy, You deserve it for being perfunctory with this sovereign. Yunjoga was also worried that she would fail miserably tomorrow, so after carefully checking the storage bag, she let out the Xianyin white bone monkey to practice. In this period of time, she realized that this Xianyin white bone monkey was quite intelligent. Although it could not speak, the soul fire in its eyes was very lively and could represent all kinds of emotions. For example, it liked to go to the Yinqi cemetery the most. Every time it went there to kill Yin ghosts, its soul fire would jump very fiercely. But once it disintegrated into white bones and put into a belt, it would look like it had nothing to live for. Little monkey, if you perform well tomorrow, Big Sister will refine something good for you to eat. Yunjoga stated her condition. She realized that if the Xianyin white bone monkey could automatically cooperate, then its attack power would be much stronger. The Xianyin white bone monkey stood there blankly. Its soul fire did not have any reaction, as if it did not understand what Yunjoga meant. You have not tasted the Yinqi water yet, right? Come. Yunjoga took out a Yinqi bottle, condensed the Yinqi inside into water, and dissolved the Yinqi Dan in it. Then, she dipped a brush in the water and rubbed it on the Xianyin white bone monkey's head. The Xianyin white bone monkey's soul fire immediately soared. Its two small arms could not help but move upwards. It was very obvious that it liked the Yinqi water. You like it, right? Work hard tomorrow. Big Sister will make sure you are full. Yunjoga squinted her eyes and laughed treacherously. If it was full now, how would it work tomorrow? How could the little white bone monkey be Yunjoga's opponent? Its nimble fire expanded and contracted, as if it was nodding. Beast, you won't even let the white bone monkey go. Zishang finally found a chance to ridicule Yunjoga. It was rare that Yunjoga did not retort. As long as it was useful, then so be it. The next morning, Yunjoga arrived at the entrance of the Yin Energy Cemetery. The Lu sisters were already waiting there. As usual, Lu Meier put on a dark face and nodded coldly at her. Lu Tian'er continued to act innocent as she greeted Yunjoga innocently. Good morning, brother Yunjio. Come with me to kill the evil ghost, and we will divide the Yinqi equally. Yunjoga had the same attitude towards the two sisters, expressionless. Don't worry, brother Yunjio can give me as much as you want. Lu Tian'er's eyes curved into a smile. The girl next door's charming appearance was indeed very easy to gain the favor of men. Unfortunately, Yunjoga was a transvestite disguised as a man. He ignored Lu Tian'er's cute act and walked into the Yinqi cemetery first. The Lu sisters glanced at each other and followed him in. The Yin Energy Cemetery was still bone-piercingly cold. Low-level evil ghosts were floating everywhere. And when they saw Yunjoga and the other two enter, they immediately surged forward. Lu Tian'er and Lu Meier took out two white bone spears and made a defensive posture. However, the white bone spears were very close to Yunjoga, and they could basically stab Yunjoga in the chest with a backhand. Yunjoga did not care. He took out a small bag and threw it down, shouting, "Come out, little monkey." Thin white bones flew out of the small bag and formed the shape of a little monkey with a big head. Brother Yunjio is too amazing. You have your own white bone puppet so quickly. But this little monkey is too cute. Lu Tian'er implied that cuteness could not be eaten. You don't need to defend. Just focus on killing the evil ghosts. Yunjoga pinched his fingers and drew the Yin Qi from the little white bone to the three of them. The Yin ghosts immediately stopped their attacks. However, the Yin Qi distributed among the three of them was not enough. The Yin Qi still floated out faintly, causing the evil ghosts to circle around them. The Lu sisters did not expect such a situation. They originally wanted to take advantage of the chaos, to kill Yunjoga the moment the evil ghosts rushed up. But now it seemed that it was not feasible. Brother Yunjio, this little monkey is so powerful. How did you refine it? Lu Tian'er could not help but ask. If she and her sister could also have such a white bone monkey, they would not have to sell their bodies everywhere to find cultivation resources. This is a mystic Yin white bone monkey that I found by chance. Yunjoga's tone was very calm, as if he was very proud, but he did not say anything. Mystic Yin white bone monkey. Lu Tian'er's eyes widened. This thing was an evil treasure. She did not expect Yunjoga to be able to get such a good thing. Lu Meier's fiery gaze turned to the white bone monkey, and a white bone spear in the chinquin bag quietly emerged. Sister, I don't have enough yin chi bottles, give it to me. Lu Tian'er suddenly said to Lu Meier, but her eyes were filled with disapproval. Now was not the time to make a move. Oh, okay. Lu Meier immediately sobered up, and the white bone spear quietly returned to the storage bag. The two sisters quickly changed their strategy and concentrated on fighting the yin ghosts. After all, the yin chi was good stuff. Yin Joga also commanded the white bone spear to kill the yin ghosts. Unexpectedly, after the white bone monkey finished absorbing the yin ghosts, it opened its mouth and spat out a pure yin chi at Yin Joga's yin chi bottle. The Lu sisters were dumbfounded. Being able to kill and take this white bone monkey was simply a treasure. Yin Joga was also very surprised. One must know that the white bone monkey was only concerned about eating and never paid attention to her. It seemed like the yin chi feast last night made it wake up. After all, the refined yin chi was much more delicious than these low-level yin ghosts. Yin Joga put away the white bone spear and concentrated on collecting the yin chi. Soon he filled a big bottle. Let's rest for a while. Yin Joga saw the Lu sisters were panting, so he decided to let them rest first. Okay. Lu Tian'er was also tired to the point that her face was a little pale. She had just recovered from a serious illness, and after fighting with the yin ghosts for so long, she couldn't hold on anymore. She staggered a little and fell toward Yin Joga. However, Yin Joga dodged Lu Tian'er, then grabbed her right hand and raised it high. Lu Tian'er's right hand was holding a red paper doll. On it, there was a human figure drawn with ink, which was very similar to Yin Joga. Seeing that her sister's curse failed, Lu Meier immediately drove the two white bone spears to stab Yin Joga's chest. Lu Tian'er was also a ruthless person. She took out the red paper doll that she had prepared and patted it on her body. Immediately, she activated the 9 Yudao body with red eyes and black hair. It was obvious that she was going to fight with Yin Joga today. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.